Holy crap.
People persist in doubting the evidence.
Don't run and hide. Don't be afraid. Don't turn away any longer. The truth will set you free.
You're listening to Jimmy Church Fade to Black on the Dark Matter Radio Network.
We're turning all of our antennas towards Jimmy Church on Dark Matter Radio.
And now, your host, the captain of conspiracy, the prince of paranormal. This ain't your daddy's radio network show. This is Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Oh, yeah. My favorite night. It's Friday. And this is Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah. All right. Welcome back, everybody. Wow, what a crazy week. What a crazy week. Thank you for everybody listening right now. All across the United States, all around the world. Keith sent us an update last night of all the countries listening in. You have no idea. No time to name them all. Today is Friday, May 23rd. We are 137 days into the new year. As always, live from the JP Motorsports Studios right here in Burbank, California. For KJCR and the Dark Matter Radio Network, I'm your host, Jimmy Church, and let's get this one cracking. Got a great show tonight. Great show. Big salute to the proud men and women in uniform all around the world fighting the good fight for us. Without them, there is no me, there is no you, there is no us. And you couldn't hear me right now. And I really want you to think about that. Think about it. Freedom of speech is a beautiful thing. And that's why you get to listen to a guy like me on a Friday night. Oh, man. Nobody died. Nobody was born today. Or just forgot to do it. It's your choice. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. You know what to do. Hashtag DMRadioNet and get into the tweet room. Our little dark corner of the universe for Fade to Black. 3 hours a night. And I've got my tweet box going right now. I think that's what my mom calls it. Her tweet box. My dad on his internet machine. All right, man, what a great show. So much has gone down this week with this discovery going on off of the coast of Malibu and what that has done. It's just been crazy. And thank you for all of the email. Gotten so many screen grabs of Google Earth from around the world. Hey, Jimmy, check this out. Hey, check this out. Hey, I already saw this. I saw this back in 2006. I saw it in 2007. I knew it was weird, but check this out. I've got something off of the coast of Saipan, Guam, all over Peru, Chile, stuff over in Europe. Just absolutely overwhelming, and I love it. Just goes to show that, somebody is listening and cares and is, wants to learn and, is interested in what's going on in the world around them too. I dig it. Somebody actually sent me an email and said that he spent all day going from Seattle all the way down the coast to Baja, Mexico. Looked at every inch of everything and actually sent a couple of screen grabs in too as well. And it's been great. I can't tell you how much has come in And I've read as much as I can. The producers are just weeding through all of that stuff and getting it to me. And I had a couple of phone calls today. Hey, Jimmy, did you get my email? No. Oh, well, I said, So, again, it's humbling is the only way that I can put it. Okay, so let's get the show going. We got so much to do tonight. We've got Michael Tellinger. And what's really cool, he is, I saw the tweets today and a couple of posts here and there about, the modern-day Indiana Jones. And he is exactly that. Because if you only knew what was going on right now, he and his entire staff have flown from South Africa to Halifax up in Canada today. And what is going on? Well, I'll let him tell the story. And so we are going to have him in 25 minutes, and it will be exactly at the bottom of the hour. I can't imagine how jet-lagged he is, but we're going to find out. And this is what live radio is all about. It's going to be great. All right. With that, tonight, yes, I am going to have open lines after Michael Tellinger. And we're going to bring in I want to have open lines for everybody to call in and talk about what has been going on out on the West Coast. Okay, and then I'm going to bring in Robert Stanley. He called in last night during the show, and then we talked again today. And he's somebody I've always wanted to get on the show, and it's called synchronicity, folks. That's what it is. And right now, for him and what is going on out in Malibu and all of his investigations, he used to live out there, this is all big stuff. And there's a bunch of coincidences, synchronicities that have happened in the last 24 hours. And there's a reason why. So we're going to bring in Robert, and then we're going to take your calls. And so, it's called Bespoke Radio. That's what it is. All right. Email, as always, Jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. And you can do that. You can also go over to the contacts page and do what you got to do, okay, where we use non-NSA special encrypted servers over there. All right, email throughout the show. It's going to be a great show. It's going to be a busy show. So get them in early and get them to me. Over on Twitter right now, here it comes. Good evening. Do you still follow any sports these days? Oh, that's from Paul. How are you, man? And I know you're listening right now. Paul, wow, I can't even believe I'm seeing you tweet. Man, it's been a lot of years, hasn't it? And he's a listener and participant from the old days. Go way back, Paul Whitfield. Okay, so that's that. Let's see. Email. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Check this out. Over at jimmychurchradio.com, there's a couple of things. We've got a full update, and I will talk about this in a few minutes, but you might as well get familiar with what's going on over on the website. First thing, as you scroll down on the homepage, there is Contact in the Desert. There is the contest. So go, click. That is the Fade to Black contest page for Contact in the Desert. Everybody is going to be there, including, ironically, tonight's guest, Michael Tellinger. Now, this is the thing. When you look at who is going to be at Contact in the Desert, Tsoukalos, Von Daniken, Greer, David Wilcock, Jim Mars, who was on earlier this week, Nick Pope, who was on last month, and John Anthony West. I want John to come back on the show anyway. Hopefully we'll do it before Contact in the Desert. But Jason Martell, Richard Dolan, Stephen Bassett, Jesse Marcel, Nick Redfern, Travis Walton, Don Schmidt, Yvonne Smith, Gerald Clark, Lynn Katay. That's the A-list right there. And that's half of who's going to be there. It is seriously like the Woodstock of these types of events, but these are all the people that I love having on this show, and they're all going to be at one place at one time. So it's in Joshua Tree. It's on August 8th. We are going to broadcast that evening, August 8th, from Contact in the Desert. We're going to be there. It's going to be awesome. So go and enter the contest. Win yourself a 4-day pass and come out and hang out with me. And what could be cooler than that? You win a pass. You will be on the air with me. That's it. If you're game, if you're down. How cool is that? Well, maybe it's not that cool. I think it would be cool. And come hang out. And everybody that is going to be on the show that night, come hang out with all of us. Dolan, Mars, Tellinger, everybody. It's going to be awesome. Okay? Maybe we'll get Von Daniken to come in with his accent and nobody will understand what he's saying. How cool would that be? All right? So go. Hit Contact in the Desert. Go and enter and win yourself something. All right. Now, below that is the updates for Malibu. Dale Romero sent in these pics today. Extraordinary. Man, I want to get to the news, but I want to talk about this. You know what? So I'm going to talk about this now. All right? So go over to jimmychurchradio.com. Right now. Do it. Scroll down. Look at it. It says update as of 5/23/2014. It's above the article and the report. Okay? Now, there's 9 pics here. Check this out. And this is how crazy it is on the Pacific Coast Highway. What him and his folks did in Las Vegas is they went to Street View. So the top 3, these are all out of Google, just to see what's going on a random day when Google is running up Pacific Coast taking pictures. That's what this is, okay? So go to Street View number 1, which is, on the left in the upper left-hand corner. And there you go. There's the street view of what? Of the underground structure, looking straight out over it, okay? But what's bizarre about this street view picture? Click on the arrow to the right and go to the next picture. Right there in the sky, 2 UFOs. Right there. Right there. That's insane. This is just Google Street View of Point Doom overlooking the undersea structure. What are the odds of that? Now, click on the next picture. There's not 2. There's 4. No, just kidding. Those are enlargements. So when you look at the 2 red circles, the 2 highlights, and now you're looking at the 2 white highlights that are enlargements of what is up in the sky at that very moment. Google Street View. How nuts is that? And I got to tell you, Dale, I don't know how you have the patience to sit there and scan and look, but you just must have been floored to see something like that. Now go down to the second row. Comments, I need them to come in. Go ahead and tweet and email. Tell me about that. I think it's just extraordinary. Now, go to the next row, middle. It's SV-1 in the 9 o'clock position. And there is Pacific Coast Highway. To your left is the undersea structure. To your right is Point Doom. Okay? There it is. Now, you ready? Click. Click to the right. Bam. Now, to have this kind of patience, that's a cloudless sky. There's a couple of anomalies up there, some clouds, maybe some contrails. But see what's highlighted there in the red circle? Click again. Now, I don't know what that is, but it looks like a white triangle. And there it is in the middle of the sky. Could be a puffy cloud. Looks to me, squint your eyes, look at that. some kind of white triangle, some kind of object in the sky. Now, the only reason why we posted this is because this is just an arbitrary day. This is just a day that Google drove up the beach and is running a 360-degree camera all around. You know how they do it, that Google SUV probably. Taking pictures. And it happens to snap up just on a random day. Now, today, Steve Murillo calls me. And he goes, Jimmy, got a great idea. I said, what's that? Let's go down to Point Doom tomorrow, Saturday night. Let's go down. We've got all of our infrared, our fancy stuff, and our telescopes, and let's just go check it out tomorrow night. And the bummer is it's my brother's birthday. It's my brother's birthday tomorrow. So you won't be seeing me post any pictures online of sky watching down at Point Doom tomorrow night. It'll be at my from my brother's birthday party. And you know how I post those pictures of our fabulous dinners that we do down here. So that's what's going to go on tomorrow night. But so we've rescheduled, and we're going to do it next Saturday night. We're going to go down to Point Doom. And if you're in the LA area, you want to come hang out, you want to go down with Steve and I and a couple of his board members from UPARS. They've got all the gear. We're going to go down to Point Doom. So just let me know. It's cool. And we'll tell you when and where. And, well, you know the coordinates. They're right in front of you. But we're going to go down, and we're going to check this out because it goes on all day and all night. We'll talk to Robert Stanley about this in just a little bit, too, as well. Now, go down to the third row of pictures in the church rant. Okay? Now, Dale sent these in today, and I thought that these were really interesting as well. Picture number 1 is a front view from the seafloor. Look at that. Now, I have no idea what that is. And it is just as incredible from that view as any other view. A bunch of stuff got posted up around the web and on Facebook and over on Blake Cousins' page too as well. Oh, third phase of moon, by the way. Yeah, they did it. Blake put together, I saw it last night. He put together a Malibu video. It's pretty cool. And I'll see if we can get the link up to it before the end of the show today. It's a little busy around here, but if I can get it done, I will. And you can certainly go over to Third Phase of Moon and check it out, and go over to the Facebook page. I think it's right there. He's posted it, and it's floating around. But it's pretty cool. And, it's done in that typical Blake Cousins style. But, again, and this is what I was scratching my head about. When you see Third Phase of Moon videos and you're watching and, whatever, draw your own conclusions. But here I am watching a Third Phase of Moon video about us with our content. And I know that our stuff is straight. Those files are clean. There's no Photoshop. There's no CGI. There's nothing. These are just straight files. That's what we do here. We give it to you straight. And everybody else that's out there looking at this video are probably thinking, oh, come on, Blake. This is too extraordinary. This is like everything else that you post. This is, and I just want to, scream. No. This is real. There's nothing I can do. But anyway, so Blake did a Third Phase of Moon, and it's out there. Now, this is picture number 1 that Dale sent today from the seafloor, looking straight in. Look at that. It can't be any more unnatural, can it? Isn't that an extraordinary picture? You can see the depth. I'm just wondering, how far, what is it? I was talking to so many people today about this, and I started to, how do I say this? Let my mind wander a little bit. What if, It could be so many different things. I have no idea. And, and you look at something like this, and you've got to scratch your head even more. What is it? And why hasn't anybody, thousands, if not millions of people have gone through Google Earth up and down the Pacific coast and looked at the mountains and the beaches and all of the stars homes and the Malibu homes and everything. That's just what we do. And they've all seen this anomaly in the water and probably have stopped and blown it up and looked at it. Why hasn't somebody taken the reins? And it's one thing to do what we have done here in the show, but I'm talking about get a boat out there with some kind of submersible with a camera on it and gone and checked it out. Why hasn't that? Why? I don't get it. I don't understand. Okay, go to picture number 2 in the middle, which is in the 6 o'clock position in the bottom row. This is from inside, behind one of the pillars, looking out. That's just nuts. Absolutely nuts. I just thought this was really, it is so much like a video game. I just had to post that one. And then this other one is up above and behind, looking out. And again, I just ask you, look at, it looks so like it's fake, like we did something here and this was cut and pasted in, but it's not. That's just a straight screen grab. Incredible, isn't it? Absolutely incredible. It is so out of place and so unnatural. I was talking to Kovar before the show. He goes, man, I think we found an indoor go-kart track from 10,000 BC. It kind of looks like that. Yeah, and he was saying, what if it's some kind of, heliodrome, some kind of indoor arena? That's, and it's kind of funny. Everybody sees what they're going to see when they look at this. Absolutely extraordinary. All right, with that, oh, man, I'm going to take a quick break. Let's do a quick break. I'll come back with a couple of news headlines. I'm looking at the studio clock. We are running out of time. I got to get to Michael Tellinger. Man, you got to love it. It's going to be a great show. At JChurch Radio, hashtag DMRadioNet. Jimmy at JimmyChurchRadio.com. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses on the Dark Matter Radio Network. And by the way, it's the Friday edition, Bell Gab. I'll be back right after this.
You're listening to Jimmy Church Fade to Black on the Dark Matter Radio Network.
What's up, revolutionaries? It's me, Jimmy Church. Do you have an IRS or state tax issue? Well, I did, and I called national tax experts. My problems were fixed, done, fini, and man, I gotta tell you, it was a relief. National Tax Experts are a recognized tax office that services clients in all 50 states. It doesn't matter where you live. Give them a call. I'm telling you, they take the time to understand each and every client's individual financial status as well as their financial goals. And that's exactly what you need, my brother, when you're taking on the evil 3-letter. So, seriously, give them a call today at 1-877-909-5444. Again, 1-877-909-5444, or go check out their website, www.nattaxexperts.com. That's NATTAXEXPERTS.com. Tell them Jimmy sent you.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
On the Dark Matter Radio Network.
All right. Bring it down. There we go. That's good. Leave it there. All right. Listen, we're running behind schedule. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to watch. This is going to be the quickest news headlines of all time because we got some email in. I'm going to try to get through these really quick. First one. Thanks for the in-depth information on the Malibu structure. At that depth, ruled out is it's never having been above sea level during the most recent ice age, ending about 12,500 years ago. Just imagine the unimaginable task of constructing such enormous building under hundreds of feet of water. Do we humans have that capability today? Just imagine building those 600-foot support columns, each taller than the Washington Monument and incredibly strong. Surely, some archaeologist in one of those fine California universities near you is curious enough to form an exploration party with the manned or unmanned subs to find the truth. This thing is not on another planet. Thanks for being our eyes and ears. Yes, on this solvable mystery. Totally agree. That was from Ben. Another one came in. Just saw your piece about the UFO bases by Malibu. I have experienced 2 UFO events. One in which me and a friend had a football field-sized ship fly over us on the beach near there. I also went back and had some weird experiences with things whistling at me from trees in certain areas at night. You can contact me. And Zuma Beach is another one, by the way. He's absolutely right. Actually, Zuma Beach is the next beach up. They actually touch. You don't even know when you're going from one beach to another. All right. Finally, I can always count on Belgab for keeping me in check. And they know what I'm talking about. So here we go. You mentioned that balloons had not been invented in the late 1800s. This was last night, by the way. However, the first balloon flight occurred in 1783. Departure of Jacques Charles and Marie-Noël Robert, Aristostatic globe balloon from the Jardin des Tuileries in Paris on December 1st, 1783. They also sent a pic of it. And that comes from WR250 from Belgab. And you know who you are. Thank you for that. And I can count on you guys for doing that. And I knew last night when that came out of my mouth. I tried to catch the words before they hit the microphone, and they slipped through my fingers. And I knew it. But, it was the point. It was the point I was trying to get across. But thank you for that, and I stand corrected. Keep the guest request coming, by the way. I really, really enjoy all of that. And each time I see a guest request come in, I go, yeah, you know what? Yeah, exactly. That's good. That's good stuff. How do you think we book these guests? Okay? It comes from you. This is bespoke radio. Well, most of it. Yeah, the rest of it is the producers here. So, all right, let's go. We are at the bottom of the hour. I do want to remind everybody that over on CNN right now, nothing about MH370. What's trending over there right now, you ready for this? U.S. soccer, Tupac, and Fox anchor was arrested, food being recalled, Donald Sterling, and don't wash your jeans. That's what's trending right now. You can go check it out for yourself. Absolutely insane. Not one word of 370 on the homepage, on the front page of CNN. But tonight is one of the, hopefully it's going to go down. Tonight, one of the coolest meteor showers, up to, they're saying maybe 400 a minute. Is that right? Am I reading this right? Not an hour? But, yeah, that's right. The comet's going to just scoot by, and tonight it's not going to, come close to Earth. And everything, no damage, nothing is going to happen, but it's all going to burn up in the atmosphere for us to watch and see. So, tonight, after the show, do what I'm going to do. And, man, I'm out of time. I knew it. I watched a video of a nuclear explosion somewhere off the east coast of Russia. Crazy mushroom cloud. I was watching the live video feed from somewhere in China, some station, And it was insane to watch it live. There was a nuclear explosion, mushroom cloud, everything right out in the ocean in the Pacific. And for the last 24 hours, I haven't been able to find one word of it in mainstream media over here. But it was live over there. There's reports that it was a Russian missile with a new type of warhead on it. That's what the Chinese were saying. But no word of it over here. Absolutely bizarre. With that, take a break. When I come back, Michael Tellinger is going to be live in the house. Next week, Blake Cousins, Joshua P. Warren. With that, at J Church Radio. This is KJCR. Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. Tweet, twit, let's go.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church on the Dark Matter Radio Network.
Dark matter.
Dark Matter, Dark Matter, Dark Matter, Dark Matter.
You're listening to Fade to Black
On the Dark Matter Radio Network.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Welcome back. Fade to Black on the Dark Matter Radio Network. This is bespoke radio for the masses. Follow us right now, Twitter, at JChurchRadio, hashtag DMRadioNet. Get into that chat room. All right. Let's get this going. Let's get it cracking. Michael Tellinger, author, scientist, explorer, has become a real-life Indiana Jones, making groundbreaking discoveries about ancient vanished civilizations at the southern tip of Africa. His continued efforts and analytical scientific approach have produced stunning new evidence that will force us to rethink our origins and rewrite the history books. Michael has shared the stage with international celebrities like Graham Hancock, Robert Temple, David Wilcock, Bob Dean, Carrie Cassidy, Stephen Greer, Stanton Friedman, Andrew Collins, Klaus Donna, and many more. His successful 2010 and 2011 USA and Canadian tours enthralled not only American audiences, but also his Canadian followers. He has become an international authority on the origins of humankind and the vanished civilizations of southern Africa. Scholars have told us that the first civilization on Earth emerged in a land called Sumer some 6,000 years ago. New archaeological and scientific discoveries made by Michael Tellinger, Johann Hein, and a team of leading scientists show that the Sumerians and even the Egyptians inherited all of their knowledge from an earlier civilization that lived at the southern tip of Africa for more than 200,000 years ago, mining gold. I'd like to welcome to the program, right now I think he's in Halifax, Mr. Michael Tellinger. Michael, welcome to Fade to Black.
Hello, Jimmy. Nice to hear your voice.
It's great to hear yours after your your adventure from South Africa up to Canada and where you guys are right now. But you sound fantastic, and, you're very remote right now. For this to go down like it is, it's just, you got to thank technology.
Oh, yeah. Well, thanks to Dave and Chris that rigged this up quickly. We're traveling across Canada here. and it's been a long day, and it's a miracle, as you say. So here we are, so we can share some of this amazing information with your listeners.
Fantastic. And this is the Dark Matter Radio Network, and I'm sitting in for Art Bell. And one of the cool things about that is this audience, that Art Bell crowd is very smart, they've been waiting for this. Not only that, but we have a huge number 2 behind the United States and fighting with the UK is our Canadian audience, and I guarantee you right now they're freaking out, and you're pretty popular up there.
Well, for those that are in Canada, since you brought it up, it's important just to share this quickly before we get into any more detail, that we are on a tour of Canada starting on this Sunday in Halifax and then going right across to Vancouver. For those in Canada that want to join, myself and Richard Dolan and various other researchers and authors in their respective field of interest, from ufology to ancient civilizations and Egyptian civilizations like Carmen Bolter and physics and so forth. Stanton Friedman is also going to be joining us, and the tour is the website and all the details is at modernknowledge2014.com, modernknowledge2014.com. So for those in Canada, go online, check out the cities we'll be in over the next 3 weeks, and come and see us. It's truly a once-in-a-lifetime experience, I guess, for those that are into this kind of information.
Absolutely. We have the links up on our website now, and so it's all there, and we'll have it, they'll stay up till the tour's over. So, and good luck with that.
Fantastic. And I just want to say thanks to Chris and Dave for setting this up. But they've worked very hard, and I trust it's going to be a memorable tour by the time we're done here.
So with Chris and I texting back and forth for the last hour as you guys are scooting across the tundra up there, I'm just like, man, he's like, no, man, don't worry. It's all good. No, don't even worry about it, man. We got it together. And I'm like, oh, wow. Right up to broadcast time. But you got to love it, and it's perfect. So now a couple of things. South Africa, first off, I've seen almost every video that you've ever done, and just totally fascinating. But before we get into Egypt and the Sumerians and what is new and what is fresh up there, South Africa itself is, to me, is largely ignored. It really is. And it seems like you're the only flag waver down there, at least the one that we hear about, stateside. Why do you think that is? Because all of your videos, you watch them, and you're like, man, this is just crazy that you can just like drive in your car from your house and leave. I'm assuming you live in Johannesburg. Just head 50 miles in one direction and stumble across something that's 10,000 years old. And why do you think it's just ignored?
Well, it's again, mainstream academia is largely responsible for how the average person on the street sees our world and our history, and they have an agenda that they follow, as you know, and your listeners will be well familiar and aware of this agenda. And what they shove down our throats at school and the textbooks and the university textbooks is all a bunch of nonsense. It's not necessarily true, and so when you start talking about ancient civilizations that are more than 100,000 years old, to the average academic or average historian, average archaeologist, that's just too far-fetched, because they've never ever faced those kind of antiquities or that kind of evidence. And the immediate assumption is that it cannot be true, because that's not what they were taught at university. So it gets largely ignored. And there are two other immediate flag wavers that come to mind in South Africa, and that's Wayne Herschel in Cape Town. Yep. That's been doing some great work with his book Hidden Records, and he's become a great analyst of astronomy and the ancient star maps and star systems, and he's made some amazing discoveries, Wayne. And then also Dean Laprini, who's a recent new friend of mine. I've just recently done a tour with Dean in around Cape Town, and he's a knowledge keeper, and he's really a shaman of the highest order that is kept and bringing back to life some of the forgotten and hidden ancient knowledge and shamanic places and rituals of ancient African people at the southern tip, right in the south, and around the Cape Town area.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I thought you were done, but I saw the interview with him, and I think it was almost 3 hours long or 2 hours long. But is he like the last one or one of the last that the knowledge has, because it's all handed down, isn't it? It's just spoken.
Well, you may be referring to Credo Mutwa.
Yes.
Yeah, and Credo Mutwa is obviously the Zulu shaman. He is, he's getting on in age, and I know that he's really tired. The last time I saw him is probably about 2 years ago now, and he looked very tired, and he asked to be left alone. And Credo is probably the last in the line of the great African shaman, and especially in southern Africa. And he's shared so much knowledge and information, not just with myself, but with many other researchers and seekers of truth and ancient knowledge. The sad thing is that he has to pass his information on to someone. That was going to be his son, who was murdered several years ago. And with that, everybody thought that his legacy and his knowledge would go to his grave. But I just heard, actually about a week ago, that he had seen some friends of mine, and they met the young shaman that he is now training, that is in training with him in an internship of some sort. So that brought great joy to me to know that Credo is not going to necessarily take all his knowledge and information to his grave, but he is passing some of it on. That's very good news.
What are you guys rushing or planning on? Is there a way to, just sit down and videotape him for a couple of weeks? You know what I mean? And get that before it goes?
Well, that would definitely be the thing to do. It's up to, either myself or someone that knows Credo reasonably well to organize that. But obviously it would be up to him to agree to it.
Right.
And I guess we can and should look at doing something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I sat and I spent a couple of evenings, because I listened to it twice, the interview with him. Like I said, it was really long. But it was like the most epic journey that you can ever go down. And it was just absolutely incredible. And to think that if he dies anytime soon, we're stuck, because that knowledge just goes with him. There's got to be a way to digitize it and get it done. Plug him in and download it. I don't know, but
yeah, I wish we had the technology to put a thing on your head and download all that information, right?
Yeah, give Michio Kaku a call. I'm sure he's got something up his sleeve. So, okay, now, what is new in your world before we jump into some specific topics? What takes you to, what are you going to speak about up in Canada, one, and two, what's some of the new stuff down in Africa?
Well, we've just come out of the South African elections, and I was in the South African elections with the Ubuntu movement, and specifically the Ubuntu Party, which I formed 4 years ago in 2010. And while I was on my tour of Europe in late February throughout March and into April, I suddenly was thrust into the South African elections when I least expected it, with the Ubuntu Party. So we contested the elections, and we were very confident that we were going to get a seat in Parliament, because we entered the elections with about 1 million followers. And we ended up with just over 8,000 votes, which was an absolute slap in the face. And it became very evident that the elections are not free and fair, that they are highly manipulated and skewed in favor of the ruling party, the ANC. So that was the latest, I guess, development in my journey, and the people that are walking that journey with me, Louise, my life partner, and various other people. And what was interesting, however, is that the fact that we were just present, our presence in the South African election as a political party of consciousness that was truly the only choice for anyone who is awake and conscious, and has higher knowledge of what's going on in our lives and in the world. That was a very encouraging moment for millions of people around the world, as we have seen from the thousands and thousands of emails that we've received since the South African elections ended. And that was on the 7th of May. And then obviously a few days afterwards, the counting carried on for about 3 or 4 days. So what has happened now is that the fact that we were present in the elections as a movement of consciousness has given us great credibility in South Africa and a much wider acceptance of the message that we share with people. And not only that, but also a large activation around the world. And I think at this stage we've got members in more than about 202 countries in the world. That's how quickly the Ubuntu movement is now growing.
Mm-hmm.
And it has given other countries, the USA, Canada as well, England, Ireland, Australia, New Zealand, my goodness, Italy, Germany, Switzerland, Austria, and various others, around 20 countries that are in the process of forming and registering Ubuntu parties to participate in their next political elections. So I think what we're seeing here is the formation of a trans-border, transnational, global political movement of higher consciousness that transcends race, transcends nationality, transcends location, that shares the same fundamental belief in higher consciousness, in unity, and the absolute freedom of the human race from the oppressive regimes that dictate all of our countries and enslave all of us equally through the global control of the financial systems, as most people will be aware. And that's very exciting. I think this, as far as I know, this has never happened before, certainly not in the modern world as we know it today. And it's happening so quickly right now that I think even a year from now, I cannot even predict what's going to happen, how quickly this is going to explode around the world.
Well, you guys have shown, well, South Africa, the one thing, and I would have never thought in a million years, at least in our lifetime, that there would be a regime change down there. Because of the strength of the gold mines and the money and what was going, that there was no way that was ever going to change, and that change, not only did it happen, but it happened very quickly. Yeah. And it's an example for everybody else that if you believe in yourselves, then rise up, take care of business. And that's exactly what happened down there. And it was rapid and it was quick and it all ended up to be okay. There wasn't, nothing is perfect, but it's certainly great down there now compared to, what it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And it just happened so fast.
Yeah, look, you're referring to obviously Mandela's release from prison and all that. But, I must just say that what you describe now is the euphorian belief or the pretty picture that's been painted, and that's not necessarily true. The current situation in South Africa is a lot worse than it was 20 years ago when Mandela came out of prison. So the current regime had 20 years to fix the problems of apartheid, and they did actually the opposite. Everything was being privatized, everything's been corporatized, everything's been sold to private foreign corporations, from our mineral rights to the roads, to the coastlines, to the airwaves. Everything has been sold from underneath the noses of our people. The banking industry in South Africa is probably the most fierce and the most draconian banking system anywhere in the world. You cannot do anything without having to, give your grandmother's birth certificate and maiden names. It's just insane. The banking foreclosures and the interference in people's lives is so severe. There are more people unemployed now than ever before in the country's history, and this is why the message of the Ubuntu Party was so important in these last elections.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really a very strong message, and we didn't pull any punches. I went on television in the television advertising campaign, making it very clear that our first objective was to close down the South African Reserve Bank, which, as you know, is the Rothschild-owned empire from Switzerland, and close down the Reserve Bank and replace it with a People's Bank. And that was our main focus in these elections, to make people, those millions that are still asleep and don't know anything about the banking system, how it works and where money comes from and how it's created, to send the very strong message that money is a synthetically created tool of enslavement, and it needs to be changed. And it's the first step towards emancipating the people from slavery. Because in 1994, when we had our first so-called democratic elections and free and fair elections, because that is not the case,
right,
for those in the know, it was just a fairy tale smoke and mirror screen that was shoved down the people's throats. Nelson Mandela released from prison, euphoria everywhere, and one regime was replaced with another regime, even a more draconian regime, which became a far more severe apartheid, because it became an apartheid of an economic slavery, and and the economic slavery does not discriminate. It treats everybody equally, with equal hostility, and doesn't matter what color your skin is.
Wasn't there a playbook? Wasn't there a playbook? Of a plan of action. Didn't you know? Didn't they know Mandela's regime? Didn't they know exactly what not to do?
Well, this is the big question, and more people are starting to raise this question: is what exactly happened with Nelson Mandela? After he's released from prison, because he became the first black president, and it was like 5 years of euphoria in South Africa, because in the first 5 years things did seem to improve, things did look like they were on the up, but as quickly as they seemed to be improving, it was just really rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic, and rearranging the furniture in the shop window, and redressing the window display. And making it look pretty so that the people passing by are so impressed with the changes. But it was just the window dressing, really, and a paint change, changing the makeup. While behind the scenes, great plans were afoot to start selling everything that belongs to the people of South Africa. So, this is really the big thing in my work and my research now, is really connecting the dots from what you mentioned, opened the show with, is my research into ancient civilizations and the vanished civilizations of Southern Africa.
Right.
Connecting the dots between those ancient times that literally go back 300,000 years and what I refer to as the first human beings on Earth, and where we are today. And there's a very distinct and a very strong thread that we can now follow from those ancient times, and where and how money suddenly appears and makes its appearance in ancient times, and how Southern Africa plays a very important role in that, the importance of and the presence of gold in all of human history. And this is why Southern Africa was such an important role player in these ancient times. And then even into modern times, and what I was referring to and talking to Richard Dolan about earlier today, talking about the whole Paul Kruger saga and the South African War, or the Anglo-Boer War, and the importance of gold in that historic event.
Right, absolutely.
And to what is happening there today, and what I find is that the more work I do in this area of research, the more it's falling onto what my new book is all about: Ubuntu contributionism, a blueprint for human prosperity, and really presenting solutions to the problems that we all are aware of, instead of highlighting the problems, because there's so many people that are harping on and highlighting what the problems are. I think everyone is getting sick and tired of that now. But people are saying now, what are the solutions? Let's stop focusing on the problem. Let's start focusing on what the solutions are. And that really, I guess, is what drives me, and what makes me more excited than anything before, is what makes me wake up with a smile on my face, because I now know, not I think or I hope, but I absolutely know that there is a solution, and that the solution is right in front of our eyes. It is so simple and so easy to attain, as long as we start realizing that we can attain it. And it's like a gift that's been given to us by just connecting some of these dots. And I call it Ubuntu, the ancient African philosophy of Ubuntu. It is not exclusively an African philosophy. Most ancient civilizations around the world share that same philosophy. And in some countries and some ancient cultures have an expression that says, if it's not good for everyone, it's no good at all.
Right.
So we've adopted that during the elections, actually. We were saying, and our T-shirts say Ubuntu, if it's not good for everyone, it's no good at all. And that's really what drives me right now, is to share this message of how to get ourselves out of this mess and how to go through this transitional phase and go from move from a money-driven society of greed and hoarding to societies driven by people and their passion for life, where people share their knowledge and contribute their God-given talents and their acquired skills for everyone, for the benefit of everyone in their community.
Let's go back and let's talk about that. When you're talking about civilizations mining gold, 200,000 years ago, which I believe to be true, but why were they mining that gold? Were they fighting over that too? And with this money-hungry society that we live in today, is this the end of 200,000 years of greed? I mean, so why were they mining gold too? What was the use for gold 200,000 years ago?
Well, Jimmy, that's the all-important question, and that, I guess, is probably one of the primary reasons why all of us are here today. The species called the human race is not our obsession for gold, but we actually inherited our obsession for gold from the gods, the ancient gods, the star beings that came to Earth, and they were looking for gold. And this brings us to the inevitable subject of the Anunnaki. And there's a lot of talk about the Anunnaki, and it's just increasing on a weekly basis. And obviously there are various authors and researchers that are prominent in that field, in that area. Zecharia Sitchin is one of them. We know that Sitchin has got a lot of detractors that are trying to find fault in what he wrote about. But what I remind people in that area when they keep going at people like Sitchin is not everything he wrote was accurate and true, obviously. But what I have presented in my work and my research is the physical evidence for such a gold mining civilization. So there can be no more doubt that what Sitchin was referring to is now been discovered. And I've presented that physical evidence. There are more than 10 million stone ruins that lie scattered throughout southern Africa. And the evidence is overwhelming and without question all about mining gold. There are millions of ancient gold mines connected to these millions of ancient stone structures, what we call affectionately as the stone circles. So the physical evidence is there. How much accuracy you'll find in Sitchin's writing is up to you, how deeply you go into it. What I can tell you is that I found enough evidence in some of his work to make me believe that he did not lie intentionally, that he didn't make things up, but he shared and gave us information to the best of his ability. And what I've contributed in my area of research is an updated version and physical evidence, as I said. And that then escalated to an understanding of how advanced the civilization was when I started to discover that these ancient structures are actually not just gold mining or related to gold mining, but that they actually are energy generating devices. And we have scientific evidence for that cannot be refuted or ignored. So we have millions of stone structures, millions of ancient gold mines, evidence of gold mining all over southern Africa, which is South Africa, Zimbabwe, Botswana, and Mozambique predominantly, but also Namibia at the same time. We have evidence of giants living in southern Africa. We have advanced technology using sound as a source of energy. And I refer to the Caesar technology or Caesar beam technology or hypersound technology that seems to have been used. And it just is very exciting because I think what we've discovered there is really the leading edge of where some of the leading scientific research is at today. And we have it. In my little museum, I have tools and artifacts that are irrefutably pieces of the puzzle that are ancient tools that were used in this sound-generating, advanced technological kind of way.
If let's put the 12th planet aside and all of Sitchin's stuff.
Yeah.
If he hadn't have written any of that, would you, through your research and your team, come to the same conclusions?
Oh, absolutely. I would have still told you that here's an ancient civilization that we knew nothing about with more than 10 million stone structures, hundreds of thousands of square miles of agricultural terraces, millions of gold mines, gold mining activity beyond your wildest imagination. So yes, we're dealing with a vanished civilization that until I started writing the books about it, we knew nothing about. There was very scant speculation as to what was going on there in southern Africa, but very, very badly researched and very naive conclusions, if you can put it that way. By mainstream researchers and archaeologists that kept falling into the same trap of assuming that nothing good ever came out of Africa, or specifically southern Africa, because that's what the Western and Eurocentric belief has been for a long time, that nothing of any significance has ever come out of southern Africa or could possibly have come out of southern Africa. Until I came along and started showing the physical evidence to the contrary. And that's where people like Credo Mutwa suddenly step in and start playing a very important role, because the knowledge and the information, as you know from watching Credo's videos and his work, not only supports the conclusions that I reached completely separately before I even met Credo. He confirmed many of the things that I've discovered and the conclusions that I reached, but gives a lot more credence and a lot more support for some of these discoveries. And then you add that to the many channelings, the other ways of gaining information that some people still may have some problems with, but those are their problems. They need to deal with it and get over it.
Right.
And start to understand what this nature reality really is and how it all works. And it's a phenomenal journey when you start to explore, multidimensional physics, alternative realities, and other dimensions, and you start putting all that into the equation of what's been going on at the southern tip of Africa and how that is connected to other ancient sites around the world, and suddenly a whole new picture of very advanced ancient civilizations starts to emerge very rapidly.
The knowledge that we are starting to accrue now, and I'm talking about, like the listeners on this show, because of researchers like yourself and Robert Schoch and Graham Hancock and Bova, everybody that is, getting it out there, because as we know, the orthodoxy archaeologists out there would, love to continue painting their picture and teaching in universities. But now this is, and we had Marshall Clarfeld on last week, actually. And one of the points that he brought up, from a point that I had brought up, I honestly feel that the pyramids were in Egypt when, the pharaohs came to power. Or it just seemed like something happened there where they were just too smart, too quick, but and the pyramids popped up when they did. And Clarfeld brought up one thing, and of course Robert Schoch has brought this up too as well, is that the pyramids were probably not only there, but they were used to mine gold as well. And I thought that was a pretty interesting take on that. And what did you think? Have you come to the same conclusions with what the Egyptians might have been doing up in Giza?
I think Egypt is a very confusing place, just like Southern Africa. And all these ancient sites are very confusing to the average researcher because, first of all, I think most of these sites are a lot older than what we imagine.
Right.
Much, much older than what we've been told. And I also believe that the sites are not necessarily what we think they were. What has become very clear to me now is that all these ancient sites are actually giant machines. These ancient, the pyramids, the stone circles in southern Africa, Adam's calendar, Great Zimbabwe,
Right.
Borobudur, and most of the ancient sites that we are looking at, specifically the pyramids and stone circles, circular structures around the world, are actually devices. And using the most advanced technology known to us today, the technology that allows you and I to speak right now is basically silicon-based technology that uses resonance and frequency and electromagnetic fields to allow us to communicate. And this is what the ancients knew, and this is really the physical evidence and the science that I've shown through the ancient tools and artifacts that I've been collecting in the stone ruins of southern Africa, is that they understood all of these things far more than we understand it today. And they used it for their own benefit. And gold certainly is at the center of this. And we do know that gold plays a very important role in ancient Egypt. There's no doubt about it. And that's a very important fact that has been, I believe, also very cleverly hidden, that or forgotten about, should I say, maybe. I'm not quite sure. But what the right expression would be. But gold plays a very central role in ancient Egypt as well, the mining of gold. And many, many thousands of years before we even think that they were mining gold there. When I was in Egypt just 2 years ago now, we went out into this desert city, and I mean, I didn't even know this, but there were like hundreds of golden mummies that were discovered in the middle of the desert. A little known fact to most people around the world. And there's this little museum there that shows 11 or 12 of these golden mummies, and the rest have been whisked away, out of sight, out of mind. And you got to ask yourself, well, how much gold did they mine to make all these ancient golden mummies, to waste the gold on that? So the gold thing is very important. And there's a very strong connection between southern Africa and Egypt and Sumeria and Phoenicia and the Hindu Dravidians and even the Inca. I've been able to find connections to every ancient culture, or all the prominent ancient cultures that I've just mentioned, in South Africa. And that blew my mind. And specifically connections to the Sumerians, the ancient Sumerians. And that's also confirmed by Credo Mutwa in great detail when he starts to talk about how many of the African names of African people actually come from or are connected to Sumerian names. And
any physical evidence, any references, any writings, drawings, what are you referring to specifically?
Well, I'll give you several examples. First of all, the African names like Nana. There are a lot of ladies and African women that are affectionately known as Nana, and that comes from Inanna. Right, and there's another expression for African women. If you just want to say a friendly hello, you call them Sisi, and that comes from Isis. And so this is how deep the origins are, and then obviously the African Zulu belief system of the creation of the human race is connected to Adam's calendar, the site that I was introduced to by Johann Heine. Mm-hmm. Johann Heine rediscovered this calendar site in 2003 by accident. He started researching it and measuring it and realized that this is an ancient site that has got incredibly detailed encodings into it of the cardinal points of planet Earth aligned with the solstices and equinoxes and so forth. And then I came along in 2007 and worked on it with Johan for a while, and until we sort of parted ways, and then I carried on my own, only to discover that Adam's calendar is a very powerful ancient site that generates huge amounts of energy. I mean, energy beyond our wildest dreams, electromagnetic fields and sound frequencies into the hundreds of gigahertz that is just impossible to measure in nature. And what then was made clear to me, I called it Adam's calendar because I immediately realized that this was a very ancient site, somehow connected to the origins of humankind. And that was then confirmed by Credo Mutwa when I showed him my book called Adam's Calendar, and he started to cry. When I first showed him the book, he just burst into tears. He said he never thought he would see that special place again. He was initiated there in 1937 as a young shaman. And then he proceeded to tell me that it is known as Inzalo Yelanga, or birthplace of the sun, where humanity was created by the gods. And it wasn't just any kind of god that was in charge of that creation of the human race. It was a god called Enkai in African tradition. Enkai as in the Sumerian Enki, who Sitchin writes in great detail about being the master architect of this new species that he refers to as the Lulu Amelu, or the primitive worker. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what the African belief system is, that the gods created the people to be the slaves for the gods to work in the mines. So exactly the same information you find described by people like Sitchin and other researchers and other authors and translators. And the information that we find in the Sumerian texts referring to the Sumerian trinity of Anu, Enlil, and Enki, you find exactly the same information in ancient African tradition and knowledge keepers. And that's a huge, huge connector to make.
With gold itself, it's an element that isn't created here on Earth, right? It's not a naturally occurring thing where it's created. What happened in South Africa and Central Africa, Northern Africa too, for the Anunnaki to mine and so forth in South Africa? Was it just bombed by meteorites? I mean, why Africa?
Well, there seems to be a lot of gold there in the ore, but it's not the only place in the world. Obviously, more other parts of the world much gold has been discovered as well. But the gold issue is a very, very special question, obviously, and for your listeners who are in the know will know that it's not the shiny metal gold that the gods were obsessed with, but it's actually the monoatomic form of the metal, or the white powder of gold, or the manna from heaven, or many other names that it went by in ancient times.
Right.
And it was that. And now the question arises, well, why? Why were they obsessed with the gold in that form, in the white powder form and so forth? And that gets really, really interesting. And the subject is vast, and I don't think anyone has really got the answer for that. I've got some interesting theories that I've been putting together based on some of the research that I've found, and it goes a lot deeper than most of us could have imagined.
Well, tell me about it. Tell me about it.
Yeah, it goes into far more esoteric and mind-blowing activity.
I'm ready.
And it's connected. It's actually connected with a complete enslavement of a species and the entrapment of a planet in a specific density and a specific reality. And the white powder of gold is probably used on not only a level by the Anunnaki and possibly other beings that found this planet, used the monoatomic gold for personal vanity and immortality in a physical form that somehow they found themselves in on this planet, and they liked it, and they wanted to maintain that form because it was it was something that was pleasing to them, and at the same time, whatever they were doing here, they wanted to keep out of sight and out of mind of the other beings of consciousness, of higher consciousness in our universe, our universe as we know it, or the multiverses that are physically connected to this reality we find ourselves in. And what happens with the white powder of gold is that at specific frequencies and temperatures, it acts as a shielding, or it makes things disappear, basically. And I believe that it was this white powder of gold that when Zecharia Sitchin writes about, they took the gold and ground it to a fine powder and suspended it in the heavens to protect their planet against the cosmic rays and the harming effects of space, the rays of space, that was destroying the planet. I think that was one of the areas that he possibly misinterpreted some of his translations or the information he found.
In what way? What way?
And he was actually, that was what they were actually saying, is that they didn't grind the gold to the finest powder. They actually transmutated it and transformed it from a gold to a diatomic gold or Au2 to monoatomic gold, and utilized that in some form to create a shield around the planet so that it would make the entire planet, possibly even our whole solar system, disappear from sight. And this is interesting because when you look at the work of David Hudson, he found that under a controlled environment in the laboratory, when they took the little pile of white powder of gold through and up in temperature, at 700 degrees Celsius, and this is important where the numbers and the whole numeric science and the whole resonance field starts to play a role in understanding of the coherence and the vibration of the unity field or the source field out there, and how you can use that to manipulate things. Because at 700 degrees Celsius, this little pile of white powder of gold starts to disappear from sight. By 800 degrees, it is gone, and it's not there. It's gone, and and that's just amazing information. So you can utilize this white powder of gold as a cladding device or a cladding shield of some sort, and if you suspend it around a planet, that planet would not be visible, and it would simply seem as if it's not there.
Like Nibiru is not visible today. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's exactly. So there's a lot more to this gold thing that most people realize, and it's far more complex than our ability to think at the moment, because we think when you start talking about geology and metals and organic and inorganic chemistry, we go back to the periodic table, and we think that is the gospel truth, and that's all there is. That's not the truth. Mm-hmm. That is just the metals and the elements that we have identified and recognized. That doesn't mean that that's everything that exists out there. And we don't even know how these things come into existence. We just know what happens when we find them. Mm-hmm. We don't really know how they come into existence. And this is where the whole question of the origins of our universe comes in, and where you start seeing and hearing some very exciting information, which is really, I guess, the centerpiece of my research as well, is the sound and the resonance. And this is why it's the sound and the resonance that becomes the tool of the ancient civilizations and these star beings that found this planet and started doing all kinds of things here, and we're the byproduct of that. And their understanding of these laws of nature, the resonance and the sound frequencies that can be used to do everything from levitation to crushing and molding rock and transmutating rock and whatever you want to do.
I agree with all of that. And with today's technology, and I come from an audio background, and I know what that means as far as the technology that we could use, or how we could apply that technology, audio and frequencies. No question about it. But that's today.
Yeah.
How did they apply that type of acoustic resonance to levitate? Because I know it's possible, sure, but 6,000 years ago, how were they pulling that off?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, this is the evidence that we find in the stone circles of South Africa or Southern Africa, because they also, as I said, they're also in Zimbabwe and the other surrounding countries. And just to remind your listeners, there are not just a few of them. There are more than 10 million of these stone circles. So it's not a small operation. We're dealing with an operation of unimaginable proportion.
I've got tweets that are flying in, and so I'm going to nail you with a couple of these really quick. Number one, Nahun footprints. What can you tell us about that?
Nahun footprints, not much.
Okay. All right, that's that. And gold, along with metals, melted into the Earth's core and then oozed back out with magma and other mineral faults. I've had like 75 tweets come in. They come in real time during during the conversation. But somebody wanted me to ask you about Great Zimbabwe.
Yes,
the ancient civilization and ruins.
Yes.
So I don't know much about that. I've only heard about it. So what have you found?
Well, Great Zimbabwe is inextricably connected to all this activity. It's connected to the Anunnaki's activity down there, to gold mining. I have very strong reasons for believing that it was the stronghold of the headquarters of this ancient gold mining empire, that it was possibly the headquarters where Enki actually was positioned and situated himself when he was down there overseeing the mining activity. It is connected to Enki's calendar, or Adam's calendar, which I believe was actually constructed by Enki, or instructed to be constructed by Enki, and is connected to the Great Pyramid of Giza, because all three of these structures, Adam's calendar, Great Zimbabwe, and the Great Pyramid of Giza, are all built along the 31 degrees east longitudinal line. There's a slight tilt, but it is along that line, which is known as the Nilotic meridian. And that Nilotic meridian plays a very important role in ancient human history. It's a very important connection to make. So Great Zimbabwe is a very, very, very important ancient site. It is completely misunderstood by all those that have excavated it. There's some very important discoveries that were made at Great Zimbabwe, and some of those are the so-called Zimbabwean birds. These bird-like statues that are carved out of stone that have been found. I think there were 8 of these found to date. Many of them were stolen and taken by those treasure hunters in the early days, in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And then the excavations at Great Zimbabwe miraculously stop. In 1930 was the last time that it was excavated. And it's just like, in Egypt, when you look at aerial photographs of the surrounding area of the Great Pyramids and so forth, you can clearly see from the aerial photographs that there's huge amounts of stuff lying beneath the sand. You can almost see the shape of the structures lying beneath the sand to a trained eye, and yet no excavations are going on there. And for people that have been following my work on the internet, you'll see the evidence that I present that all these ancient structures are not just energy generating devices, but they are extremely large. They are technology of a humongous proportion, and that many of these ancient sites can actually be connected, can be seen as like giant circuit boards that were generating huge amounts of energy and pushing this energy into the sky that was upholding and creating this energetic grid around our planet. And that grid is well, there seems to be more than one grid around our planet. But there's evidence of this ancient grid, and there are people that can measure these things. There's technology that can measure these grids, and I have been very blessed to know people that have this technology and can do these measurements, and the information that I get is just mind-blowing. And that, like the movie The Matrix, where you see all the zeros and the ones, the basically binary code that makes up all our computer language.
Right.
that there seems to be the remnants of this energetic, some sort of a computer energetic grid around our planet that consists of zeros and ones, and there are large areas of where this energy grid is still being detected. I know that some people just scratch their head and say, geez, Tellinger has lost his mind, but do that at your own peril, because 100 years ago, if I told you that I was going to be talking to you through a little device in an RV in Canada, and this is going to be broadcast worldwide, people would laugh at you.
Absolutely.
So don't, before you start, raising your arms and calling people, liars and story makers, first realize that what we know about this nature of reality is we're like little infants on this planet. We are finally now opening our eyes and looking at the skies and realizing that we're looking at an infinity of first of all, infinity of creation around us. We have no idea how far it goes, how many universes there are. We have no idea how many advanced beings there are out there. But what we do know is that it's probably infinite.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so, we suddenly have to realize, come to terms that we are the new babies. We are the infants of this infinite, multiversal community of beings, of different levels of advancement, different levels of consciousness, different levels of technology. And this is a very exciting time to be alive, that we're now rejoining and in a process to reach out and connect to these beings and free ourselves from this enslavement, because at the same time, while we're looking up at the skies and reaching out to these beings of higher consciousness and knowledge and information, we're also under attack and under control by many of these from the past, these so-called beings that have abused humanity, and on many, many levels. And this is, I guess, where I've been sharing my philosophy of this thing called enlightenment. And, what is this stuff called enlightenment? Because when you start talking about enlightenment to people, you get some very interesting answers. And often it's a cyclical definition that people just keep giving you definition after definition of what enlightenment is, but you actually don't get any answers. And I guess we get that from studying this stuff. And I believe that what happened on this planet with the creation of the slave species to mine the gold for the Anunnaki and possibly other beings as well was a great tragedy that occurred that affects not only what our friends in Star Trek would call the Prime Directive, and it really creates like a ripple effect in the fabric of consciousness and the source field by messing with a species and their potential to rise in consciousness, and enslaving a species on a planet so that they become completely ignorant as to who they are and what their divine potential is a phenomenal crime against pretty much all of creation. And this is what I find exciting. And I've been defining the path to enlightenment in 4 steps. And are you still there, Jimmy?
Yeah, I'm waiting for you to share that. I'm at the edge of my seat. This is Fade. This is Fade to Black on the Dark Matter Radio Network. We're speaking with Michael Tellinger. He's live somewhere in northern Canada in an RV because he is the craziest man alive. And you've got to love technology. I wanted to ask you really quick before we get to these 4 points. Does Chris have access to another computer there right now?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, have him pull up my website, jimmychurchradio.com. I don't know if he can hear me, but have him pull up jimmychurchradio.com. And the team here has stumbled upon something that has been, talked about on the West Coast here for decades. And lots of people have seen it. Well, we've actually been able to get some underwater shots of it, and and I want you to just pull up the homepage. You don't have to navigate anywhere. Just scroll down, and you can see the headline there that says "Massive Undersea Structure UFO Base Discovered Off the Coast of Malibu." That's the press release. So,
wow.
And look
I
at.
just need to call Chris. They're outside sitting around the fire.
Yeah, and I wish I was there, and because you know what you're looking at now. Over the weekend, I'm going to speak with Robert Schock, and I'm going to speak with John Anthony West and possibly Graham. You know, as many guys as I can, like yourself. I need you to look at this and just get back to me and tell me what you think you are looking at. It's an extraordinary structure. It's very large, and I just need to compile all of my friends' input, and I need the A list of crew. You know, I need the X-Men on this, and it's turning out to be just an extraordinary event. And for this to be on the West Coast, either it's very, very old, or it's very, very new. It doesn't matter, but what it is very, very large and under the water. And
okay, I just called Dave in and asked him to call up the website so we can have a look at it.
Yeah, check that out.
While he's doing that,
give me those 4 points.
Yeah, while he's doing that, is it jimmychurch.com?
Yeah, jimmychurchradio.com. Yep.
jimmychurchradio.com. Okay. Well, while David is doing that, I just want to. Have you heard the story of showing how advanced this technology is in Southern Africa? This silicon-based technology.
I have watched everything that you have done, almost everything. That would be a lie. I can't lie, but I've watched way too much Michael Tellinger. And so, yes, the answer is yes. But for our audience, I'll leave it up to you.
I took one of the most amazing tools and artifacts that I have in my museum, my little museum, is what I call, or what is known as the sacred stones. These stones, they look like little tiny wheels, or donuts rather, and these are known as the sacred stones. And they've been a great mystery to archaeologists and historians. They have no idea what these things are, and they've been called weights for digging sticks, because that's all the ancients could do. So they would spend a lifetime making one of those, just to use as a weight to be able to dig more effectively for roots, when they go hunting for food. And what I discovered is that these donut-shaped stones are actually basically like little vortex field generators. They're extremely advanced technology, and they just use sound to generate. It's basically, I guess, black hole technology, if you can call it that.
Sure.
Like toroid vortex fields, right? That's what these things are. They are toroid vortex field generators. And they were used for whatever reason. I don't know yet how. We're still trying to figure out exactly. But they were somehow connected to the generation of energy, or the utilization of the energy that was created by the stone circles, which we've measured in great detail. We also measured the energy around these donut-shaped stones with the holes in them, but we didn't know how powerful they were, because it's subtle energy, and it seems to be scalar kind of energy. It seems to be very advanced energy that we're still learning about. And I was on my way to visit Nassim Haramein last year, pretty much this time last year in Hawaii at his Resonance Research Institute to do a presentation to his team there. And I put one of these stones in my bag. And Louise and I left Johannesburg and on our way to USA via Doha in the Arab Emirates, Qatar Airlines and Doha. And, no problem leaving Johannesburg, arriving there. But as we were leaving Doha, my bag went through, TSA security on the way to Chicago.
Uh-oh.
And little did we know what chaos it caused. So we were sitting on the plane.
How big was it?
The stone is about 6 kilos in weight.
Okay.
So it's about 12 pounds.
Right.
It's probably about less than a foot in diameter.
Right.
I'd say about 9 inches in diameter, and with a hole in the middle. Imagine a donut. Or if for those of you that have seen Thrive, the movie.
I was just going to ask you about this is Nassim from Thrive, right?
Yeah, Nassim Haramein from Thrive.
Right.
And in Thrive, they show this beautiful graphic of this sort of donut-shaped toroid shape of the galaxy and the universe and so forth. So imagine a stone that looks just like that.
Got it.
And next thing, we're about to take off, and I hear the intercom says, "Louise Clark, please identify yourself." And I look at Louise and I go, "What have you done, woman?" and she looks at me and like completely perplexed. And next thing, she puts her hand up, and this air stewardess comes running along, say, "You must follow me off the plane. I must escort you off the plane, ma'am." And I go, "Whoa, I'm not letting them take Louise off the plane." So I follow her, and we go down the steps onto the tarmac, and there are 5 guys with guns standing around my bag, and I'm going, "Oh my goodness, that's my bag. It's not Louise's bag." So lots of confusion, and eventually they send her back up the stairs, and they make me open my bag. "There's a security threat in your bag, sir. Open the bag." And I'm going, "Wow, it's the stone. I forgot about the stone in my bag." And I immediately knew that it's the stone because nothing else in my bag other than my clothes. And in the meantime, Louise is standing at the top of the stairs. The captain comes out of the cockpit. He says, "If this plane isn't off the ground in the next 2 minutes, I'm offloading the whole plane." And chaos breaks out, and these guys are standing around my bag, and I'm opening it up, and I'm thinking, what am I going to tell them about the stone? Because I don't want them to confiscate it, because it's exotic material, it's ancient artifacts. If I tell them it's an ancient artifact, they will most likely confiscate it. So, I say, well, it's African curios. It's like African...
Tell them you're a sculptor. It's just a rock I carved.
Yeah.
That's all it was, right? It's just rock, right? It's just rock.
Yeah, exactly. So I say, it's African curios. I bought it as a present for my friend in Hawaii. So, and they completely, when they see this thing pop out my bag, they're just completely amazed. They can't believe that this is what caused the havoc. So lots of commotion. Okay, put it back, close up the bag, quickly rush us up the stairs before the captain offloads the plane, and get my bag back onto the plane. And we get on the plane, and doors close, and we start to taxi out. And I say to Louise, "What was this all about?" And and all the time while this was happening in my mind, I was thinking, okay, the stone works, but I didn't know how well it worked, because when I sat down next to Louise, she said to me that, "Do you know what? When the captain came out of the cockpit, he said, whatever is in that bag crashed the TSA security system."
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm speechless. They didn't tuck you in a room. They didn't.
No, I'm amazed. I'm absolutely amazed. So I would love to get the video surveillance footage, because there must be video surveillance footage in the TSA's security in their room, right?
Freaking out. Yes.
When the lights went down, and when the system crashed, because that's what happened.
Yes.
So if there are any hackers out there that know how to hack into the TSA in Doha security office, I forget what day it was, in June. I can give you the date for those that want to know. Find that it was at about it was probably about 7:30 in the morning. Just find us a video surveillance footage from that time.
We've got the skilled crew that listens to this show. Oh, I just wanted to remind you, Michael, check your email after the show. A good friend of the show, his name is Lou, just sent you an email about gold. I'm reading it here. It's just for your eyes only. Check it out. It's good stuff. Good stuff.
Oh, good.
All right.
Excellent.
And okay.
So the reason I brought this up, when I talk about, my understanding of ancient technology and the fact that we have discovered ancient technology, and it's all got to do with sound, I'm not just making it up. I'm sharing stuff with you that has been verified, that's been measured, that's been tested, and then verified by institutions like the TSA. Thanks to the TSA, we now know how powerful this ancient technology is.
Absolutely. What happened at Nassim's house when you got there with the rock?
Well, I left it with Nassim to do experiments with, and I made some suggestions to them. I believe that what you do is you put a sound frequency into the center of it, and it actually amplifies it many fold, and it probably keeps pushing it out and actually creating a multiplication effect or a scalar effect as the sound and the energy moves away from the center. So it actually gets stronger as it goes further away.
Amazing.
And so we're dealing with extremely advanced knowledge of the laws of nature.
What was the What was the frequency? Can I ask? Do you remember what it was?
No, we don't know. We don't know. It was obviously one of the frequencies that they use in the many different technologies they use to scan your bag with. They send all these frequencies into it, and some ultrasound, I guess, or whatever it is that they put through your bag.
Right.
One of those frequencies must have gone straight into the middle of the stone, and must have activated it and created some sort of an electromagnetic pulse. Remember in the movie Ocean's 11, how did they put out the lights in Las Vegas?
Yeah.
With an EMP, electromagnetic pulse.
Right.
That's exactly what I suspect happened with the stone. They activated this technology with a sound frequency into the center of it, and it just put out a very powerful EMP from the stone. Remember, you're dealing with advanced and silicon-based technology.
Hey, did David get the website open?
Did you get the website open?
We're right in front of it.
Oh, we're right in front of it. So what are we looking at?
Okay.
Dark matter.
Yeah. No, you should be at Jimmy Church. Yeah, okay. You're on jimmychurchradio.com, right? You're looking at my ugly mug, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So scroll down. Just scroll down.
Yeah.
And you'll see it says massive deep underwater base discovered off of Malibu. Do you see that?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, now scroll down. And now you're going to start looking at a set of pictures.
Goodness, look at
exactly.
that.
Now.
Oh, wow.
Exactly. Now, what you're looking at, I know you're looking at the first picture before you start to open up stuff in the gallery. That bay, and there's a report above it, and it gives you the dimensions. But that is 2.5 miles across, 1.5 miles deep. The roof that you're looking at is 500 feet thick. Those columns that you see underneath it are 630 feet tall. The entrance right there in the middle between the two columns in the middle, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns. But the middle two, that is 2,000 feet wide, that entrance. Now, you see the land behind it? That's the Pacific Coast Highway, Michael.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Malibu.
Malibu.
I know the highway well.
Exactly. There it is. There's Point Doom. It's all right there. This is just sitting right out in the ocean, and look at the surroundings, and it doesn't fit the natural landscape. So I'm giving you a little gift, and I would appreciate you looking into this for us. Like I said, I'm going to gather information from the X-Men crew. Everybody out there over the weekend. This is the UFO activity that has been on this part of California, not north, not south, right here in Malibu, has been extraordinary for the last 30, 40 years. And then we find this smack dab in the middle of it. I'm not the first person, or we here, everybody that's been working on it here at Fade to Black, we're not the first to find this, but we're the first to get this out into the public and get it out there. And we've have this extraordinary underwater photography done, and it's insane. And now it's finally in the mainstream media, and now we have to answer for it. Now, is it ancient? I don't know. Is it a UFO base? I don't know. Is it connected to other underground installations in the United States? I don't know. Is it 10,000 years old? Was it, above sea level during the last ice age? Is it 200,000 years old? I don't know. Is it Anunnaki? I don't know. But what I do know is it ain't right. You look at these, and it just doesn't make sense. This isn't some weird, picture from Jupiter or Venus or Mars or wherever, where you have to have a leap of faith. This is off the coast of Malibu, right here on planet Earth. And
that's spectacular, Jimmy.
Isn't it?
Spectacular. And Richard Dolan is out here with us, so I'll show this to him when we finished our chat. I'd love to get his take on this.
Absolutely. Tell Richard I said hi. We did a live broadcast a couple of months ago in front of a studio audience here in Southern California, and he's going to be on the show again in a month or so. But love Richard, and so show this to him. Yeah. And he's got my phone number. And
this is awesome.
Yeah, you guys are you guys speaking tomorrow?
On Sunday.
Oh, you're
the
speaking on
our
Sunday.
First, conference is on Sunday. It's a full-day event here in Halifax. So those Canadians that are near us here in Halifax, come to get on the website and get the details, modernknowledge2014.com. And it's going to be exciting, really exciting times.
It's going to be good. And kind of the reason why I'm asking you, since you guys have an off day tomorrow, I'll talk to you and Richard. It's a Saturday. Show this to Richard, and then I'll talk to you guys tomorrow, and then we'll exchange some emails. Now, before I let you go, and thank you for hanging on for an extra 15 minutes. I know that you've been traveling, but I was hoping that this conversation tonight would get your adrenaline going a little bit, and I could squeeze an extra 15 minutes out of you. But there was a report that came out in the mainstream media that I reported on here on the show last week. And it was on CNN, it was on Fox, it was a major release. And I just want to know, if it was true, because it involves South Africa, that apparently there is an escape plan for the continental United States in the event of a huge catastrophe, like maybe, Yellowstone, volcanic action, whatever. For the U.S. to go to South Africa, the population, and Brazil, Argentina, and I'm leaving Australia. And there's a contingency plan for this. And then the South African government said no. Did you hear about this?
Yeah, I heard about some sort of contingency plan. I didn't know what the outcome was. The South African government saying no. That's very interesting.
They turned down They turned down like $10 billion a year in funding to allow this to happen. They said the money's not good enough. We have, and the announcement from the spokesperson from the government down there said, we've got our own issues right now, and we can't deal with this. And sorry, but yeah, and it was just the strangest. Official press release, mainstream media. And I thought, wow, what a crazy.
So there's got to be a hidden agenda behind that. Obviously, they don't put that kind of stuff on mainstream media out without an expected effect or, cause and effect kind of situation. So there's definitely an agenda behind them putting that kind of press release out.
It was insane, absolutely insane. So to keep that on the back of your head, go check it out. It was released last week, and I'm sure the spokesperson that was speaking on behalf of the government, and apparently what it was they just felt compelled to speak publicly first on why they were saying no to American dollars. And they wanted to state their position on it. And so the cat was out of the bag after that. And it was a pretty crazy report. So
I'm surprised by something like this because, as you know, the United States is basically being run by the banking corporates, just like most other countries are run by the banking elite. And that's very surprising because So I don't know where that.
I'm telling you
what the reason for that press release was. I don't know.
Well, you're at a loss for words, just like I was. And when I read it, I was just like, I've got to take this on the air. I've got to get this one out. But anyway, thank you. We've got to get you back on, and we'll talk about global banking. I think that is such an interesting subject, and I know that you've got your opinions on it, and you've published on it, and I would love to get you back on. And so as soon as you get done with your Canadian tour, we'll get you back on the air before August 8th. And as you know, we'll be broadcasting that Friday night from Joshua Tree. We're going to pack up and go remote, and so we're going to do the show live that Friday night. So I hope you're in town. When do you get in town for Joshua Tree? Are you going to be there that Friday?
Yeah, and thanks for bringing that up, because I just also needed to remind the listeners that I'll be back in the USA for the Joshua Tree event for Contact in the Desert. I was there last year, and it was just awesome. And I hope to take a holiday at that stage as well. And I think I'm there on the 8th of August, right? When is
it's the 8th of August, and it's kind of funny because Dolan's going to be there again. Yeah. And that's the A list of researchers that are going to be out there, and so we're going to broadcast Friday night, so have you stop by the booth and say hi to everybody, and looking forward to it. We're giving away tickets, and so a lot of the listeners that are listening now, I can't wait. They'll be able to come out and hang out too and jump on the radio, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And that's a big weekend, and unless you've been there and experienced it, that is a tremendous event that Victoria has put together out there. It's going to be extraordinary. So,
I mean, last year I think there were 1,000 people there.
Yeah, exactly. It's no joke, and I just can't believe it that she is able to. It's not only that she's able to pull everybody together, but because it's such an extraordinary event, people like you want to be there. It's easy for her to pull everybody together. It's just extraordinary. It's going to be a great time.
Yeah, and it's also such an amazing place. The venue is amazing. It's a great find, and the climate is so beautiful. The desert, the Joshua trees.
What are you going to do? Are you going to sleep in a hotel room? Or are you going to camp? Are you going to pop a tent out there?
No, they got the chalets there, so we stay in the chalets.
Oh, come on, man! You need to pop a tent, man. Go out there in the desert.
We're popping tents right now.
I know you are. All right, hey, say thank you for me to Chris and Dave, and say hi to Richard for me, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.
I will. Thank you very much, Jimmy, and lovely talking to you, and Dave, and Richard and Chris actually heard you talk, so they send their love and say thanks as well.
I really appreciate it. You have a great night. I'll speak to you guys tomorrow.
Take care.
Thank you, Michael. All righty. Thank you, Michael Tellinger. And I'm looking down at my cell phone, which is muted, and my brother Danny is calling right now as I speak, and he is up in San Francisco. And he thinks he's coming live on the air, which he is not. All right, this is Fade to Black on the Dark Matter Radio Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Hey, Bell Gab, it's the Friday edition. This is Bespoke Radio. Thank you, Michael Tellinger. I'm going to take a quick break. When I come back, I'm going to see if I can raise Robert Stanley. We're going to get him on the phone. I'm going to see what I can do. I'll be right back. Stay with us.
JimmyChurchRadio.com. What's up? My name's Brian Taylor, Ninja Badass Extraordinaire, and this is JimmyChurchRadio.com.
JJCR in your face.
JimmyChurchRadio.com on the Dark Matter Radio Network.
Oh, yeah. Welcome back. Fade to Black on the Dark Matter Radio Network. All right. At JChurch Radio, you can tweet, you can twit, jump in, get into that tweet chat box, that tweet chat room. Thank you for I'm watching everything roll in. Thank you to Michael Tellinger. You can email to Jimmy at JimmyChurchRadio.com. You know what to do there. This is Fade to Black Bespoke Radio on the Dark Matter Radio Network. And last night, Robert Stanley called in, researcher and extraordinary, actually, publisher, had a great magazine, and called in because of what's been going on out here in Malibu. And he has been researching, and I mentioned before we started the show tonight in the opening, that he's been researching out there forever, lived out there, Point Doom, Malibu, Zuma, knows the community, the neighbors, the people, and everything, and he's been researching and has had his own extraordinary experiences out there. And it's synchronicity that everything is happening at the same time. So I just wanted to reach out to Robert tonight and invite him back onto the show. Robert, are you with us, sir?
Yes, Jimmy. Thanks for having me back so we can continue our conversation.
Well, you know, when we were talking, and again, thank you.
Sure.
When we were talking earlier today, and oh, by the way, this is a really funny thing. About a year ago, unrelated to anything, I stumbled upon your website about the ruins up there in the Santa Monica Mountains. And I spent a little time there, and I looked at. I actually didn't read the article. I clicked on the photographs and looked at everything. Right.
Okay. Yeah.
And one of the things that stuck out was the one rock that seems to be upside down, and sit. I can't even describe it. I'll let you do it. But and I remember seeing that, and I remember seeing the walls. Right.
Right.
And it just stuck with me. And then you and I get in contact this week because of something else. This thing that's off of Point Doom. But it's really weird how synchronicity like that works. And I went back and looked. I was like, oh man, I remember all of this and being blown away by it. And the fact that Preston and I were talking about it, and you happened to hear about it and called into the show. Things all happen for a reason, my friend. Never forget that, right?
Oh yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Okay, now obviously we know about what's been going on out on the West Coast here. So, but let's back up before that. And you and I were talking about a couple of experiences with you very early on. And so let's back way up. What triggered, you were living there, I'm assuming, with your family, but what event, what was the first thing that happened that caused you to take a right turn in your life and get into this?
Well, I grew up in Malibu, so even though I'm currently in Rhode Island, I've been here like 6 years. My early life is in Malibu. And I got to tell you, the pictures you have on your website, that's not Point Doom, that's Point Magoo.
Yeah, Point Magoo, right.
Okay, and that's where the ruins are.
Directly behind it.
Directly behind Point Magoo Beach, and that giant mound is where the ruins are located. That's why when I saw it, I thought, okay, that fits with what the Chumash elders told me, that the first people were destroyed in a flood. And I'm like, well, where did they live? And they said, oh, and this was all because I showed them the pictures of the ruins.
Right.
They said we didn't do that. I said, really? Who did? And they said, the first people. I'm like, well, who's that? And they said, well, they were destroyed in a flood, and they used to live out in this coastal valley called the Mu.
And this was 1987, 85? Okay.
85 is when I first set eyes on it. But as I was telling you before, the real turning point in Malibu was 1985. 10 years earlier, I was in Egypt, and I was in the Great Pyramid when a tour guide struck that stone box with a wooden mallet,
and
the sound was not only extraordinary, it caused me to have an out-of-body experience.
This was in the King's Chamber? You're talking about the sarcophagus, the granite box? Okay.
Yeah. Well, it rang like a tuning fork, and I think it's F sharp. Anyway, the point is, it spiraled around the room. It caused my vision to go completely white. I didn't black out. I had a whiteout. I literally felt myself go out of my body, out of the pyramid, and I was standing there looking at the pyramid, wondering how I got outside. It made no sense to me whatsoever.
Explain that again? That just went by me a little bit too quickly.
I know.
Whoa.
That's what I thought, too. My parents are we traveled a lot because my parents were artists. And so I missed a lot of school, but I traveled all over the world from 73 to 75, I went to over 50 countries with them. And the end of all of that journey, and it was thousands and thousands of miles, was, or I should say the culmination or the highlight was going to Egypt. And we get to the pyramids, and they didn't want to go in. I don't know why. So I went in there by myself, and I spent some time in the Queen's Chamber by myself taking pictures. I was 15 at the time. And after I was done there, I walked up the Grand Gallery, and then I entered through those chambers. And then as I walked in there was a tour group in there. The guide, a local guy wearing a white robe, he took a wooden mallet and struck the box, and it rang like a tuning fork. And my mother's a musician. I was raised a musician, so I was listening to it almost like, you know how you tune up an orchestra?
Absolutely.
To the A, I'm listening to that and trying to like tune into it, and it was the craziest thing ever, because as there was a feedback going on there. It actually got louder, but it was spiraling around the room, and that really floored me, because I wasn't expecting any of this stuff.
It didn't die away. It continued.
Actually got louder.
Right.
At first, it was getting louder, and I'm listening to it, and then the next thing I know, my vision went completely white. It was like a really loud hissing in my ears too as it happened. I just lost my vision. It was completely white, and the next thing I know, I was standing. It felt like I was standing outside the pyramid looking at it, wondering how I got there.
But you weren't outside of the pyramid.
Physically, no. But it felt like it was.
Now, and the tour guide, I'm jumping in here, but the tour guide knew what he was doing, didn't he?
No, well, if he did, he couldn't articulate it to me, because shortly as the energy, the sound started to dissipate out of the room.
I'm listening. Are you there?
Not this again.
Okay, we're breaking up. We've lost you, Robert.
Okay, how about if I call you on?
Okay, I'm going to take a quick break. That's bizarre. Thought we had a strong landline. It might be us. Let me take a break, and I will.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, there you are. You're back. Are you back?
Yeah, I am. And it's not raining tonight either. I don't know what's going on. I'm going to have somebody out here. Do you want me to call you on my cell phone?
No. Landline. We're staying with the landline. You sound good now. That was bizarre.
Yeah, well, either that or somebody's interfering with it. I don't know.
You never know, man. This is what we call the NSA radio. Oh man. Okay, so
where did you lose me?
Okay. Well, let's just go back to you thought you were outside, but you weren't.
Felt like it. And you not physically.
Right. How much time do you think went by?
Probably just a few seconds, but it's ingrained into my psyche because I was so baffled. It made no warning. It's just suddenly there I am, and I'm wondering how that happened. And then seconds later, I'm back in my body inside the king's chamber, looking around, and I'm wondering if everybody in the room had that happen. Okay.
How many other people were there?
It was packed. It was a tour. I wasn't part of that. I just walked in there just before he did that.
Right.
And then I'm like, whoa. I mean, that really, I'll never forget that. It was the weirdest feeling, pretty much one of the weirdest feelings I've ever had. And then after I came back, and I'm like completely stunned. I'm looking around at everybody to see if they're having the same reaction, but I didn't ask anybody anything other than the tour guide. I walked over to him and go, why did you do that? How is that possible? And he obviously, I wasn't making much sense to him because I didn't even know what I was asking. Truly, I didn't understand it.
Sure.
I don't know who ever figured that out. Even why would you ever even hit that thing with a wooden mallet?
Wow.
Doesn't make sense. But it reminds me what I would listen to your whole conversation with Michael.
Right.
Fascinating. What a brilliant soul he is.
Right.
I wish there was more people like him.
Yes.
But okay, why is that important? Because you'd asked me with turning point. Well, that was a part of it. Prior to that, I'd had a UFO land near the house. I think it was just before I started traveling. In 1973, there was a UFO that landed in a field near the house, and it left an impression in the field. But it also left an impression on me because some ball of light literally came into the bedroom around that time frame and was somehow communicating to me. Now, I'm not the only one who's had this, but it really was bizarre. I mean, I struggle to try and figure out what that could possibly be.
Same time frame, 15 years old, 16 years old?
No. At 73, I was 13.
Right.
And like I said, when I left, the first place we went to was the South Pacific. I was gone for 6 weeks. As a 13-year-old, that's a lifetime.
Sure.
And it changed me. It really did. Traveling that far for that long, as a teenager. Anyway, so 75, I have this weird out-of-body experience in Egypt. 10 years later, I'm back in Malibu. I'm a security guard there in Zuma Beach. The private section is where I worked.
Broad Beach, that area?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
that was the exact area that I was head of security for in the 1980s.
Okay.
All right, and I don't know how to summarize this part except that I met a boy who was possessed. That's where I kept my surfboard, was at this house. A lot of times these people would rent their houses out to other families or whatever. I didn't know the boy at all, but to cut to the chase, looking back on it, I know he was possessed by some entities, and they wanted him to hurt himself again. And I just happened to be there, and I intervened. It was just a reflex, okay, but I helped. I think I saved his life. In fact, I'm sure he would have just bled to death there in the house if I hadn't rushed over there and called the paramedics, because his grandparents were completely in a state of shock.
Now, was Broad Beach back then, Billionaires Row like it is today?
Yeah, and actually it was broad at that time. It was before all the sand eroded away, but yeah,
it was broad, right.
It literally was. That's why they called it that, because it was very wide. Anyway, what most people don't know is there's been a lot of suicides in Malibu, and I often wondered what was, if this had something to do with the Native American curse by the Shumash, or at least that's what some people allege. Now I know better, but
well, it could also be, money.
It could be, but it's not. It's not.
Okay,
I'm saying this definitively because it has taken me decades to figure this out.
Right.
Because see, as I came into the house and I saw what was happening, I called the paramedics and I said, "This is life or death." And they sent an ambulance and whatever. It was an ugly mess. The boy had run across the room into a sliding glass door face first, breaking it with his face, and literally slashing his face open. So while I was there, I started,
How old was he? You were in your 20s, right?
I was 24 at
right.
the time, and he was probably around 10. He already had a big scar on his forehead. I noticed that when I was walking past him after putting my surfboard away. I was like, he didn't seem very happy, considering it was a beautiful day at the beach. I remember that day because it was extremely calm and warm, and there was hardly anybody around, which made my job a lot easier. And I just felt it was one of those moments I'll never forget, because the juxtaposition of feeling literally feeling so happy to be alive. It's like one of those moments you go, wow, it's good to be alive.
Yeah, Zuma Beach will do that to you too.
It's beautiful. From the position I was looking at, I was facing Point Doom at the time. And I'm looking at that and just the sun. I just gotten out of the water, and which is always cold, and my bones were starting to warm up, and I was really feeling happy to be alive. I know that sounds weird, but that was what I was. I was fully in that moment until I heard that sound. The boy. It was the weirdest sound. It was the weirdest sound. That much glass breaking from the middle.
Right.
And I twisted my head towards the sound, and I saw the boy crashing through the glass. And the next thing I saw was the shadow of a man clutching the boy up, and they both disappeared. And the next thing I know, I found myself running there as fast as I could.
And what happened next?
Well, I opened the door and screamed security, and I didn't hear anybody, so I ran upstairs, and the grandmother was standing there like a statue. And there was blood everywhere and glass. And I said, "Has anybody called the paramedics?" And she didn't answer. So I just grabbed the phone and called them and said, "We've got, kid bleeding out. You got to get somebody here right now, life or death."
So for somebody looking from the outside in, he just apparently for no reason just decided to turn and run through, this glass.
Yeah.
But
it gets crazier. Okay, this whole thing doesn't make any sense unless I guess I can't summarize it. So after I hung up the phone, I looked around and I started to, because there was glass and blood everywhere, so I wanted to get the glass off the floor so nobody else got hurt. I found something to start doing that, and the grandmother slowly started to come out of it, and she was sort of talking to herself, and she said that she was glad that the door was shut, or it could have been much worse. And I said, "Excuse me?" And she said, "Yeah, if the door wasn't shut, I think he would have jumped over the railing." And I'm looking at her, and she's in a trance. I mean, it was bizarre. And she says, "I think that he thinks he can fly." And at that moment, like I said, I was kind of in an altered state anyway, just because of the adrenaline and whatever. And at that moment, I actually saw that there was entities in the room that looked like ticks. They weren't small either, by the way. They were pretty large. And I know what they are now, but at the time, all I could do was think, man, those things look like ticks. And what the hell are they? And why are they floating up near the ceiling? I mean, and then it dawned on me, oh, wait a minute. These are the kid's hearing voices. He's here, and those things are literally telling him to do harm to himself so that they can feed off of that energy. I know that sounds like a stretch, but believe me, when it happened, as it was happening, it was no different than when I had that thing in the pyramid. I wasn't expecting this at all. It just happened, okay? And I had to deal with the consequence because, oh man, when they saw that I saw them and that I had broken up their party, they started attacking me. And that was not a good thing. And that's how I ended up on the mountain that night of an equinox, and meditating like my life depended on it, because I felt like they wanted to kill me. I could just feel them draining the energy out of my solar plexus, and I had no context for any of this stuff, Jimmy. It was like being thrown in the deep end of a pool.
Was it the beginning of everything? So now, I guess looking back, you made the contact. So was that the beginning of, a constant? I mean, you understand what I'm saying. Before that, nothing, and then after this incident, suddenly everything changed, didn't it?
Yeah, it. You know what? If you draw an arc, if you look back closely enough, you'll see there's always an arc or a progression, a natural progression. And I couldn't articulate it very well until fairly recently, because I was tired of not understanding this thing, so I had to really sit down and put some effort into figuring it out. But what happened next, when I was up on the mountain, I again went out of my body, but this time it was because I was generating the sound. As I sat on that mountaintop, I was actually saying Om, Om. And I was doing it in such a way where I was putting my tongue against the roof of my mouth, and it was resonating in my head like crazy. It's what they call in yoga, they call it Kriya yoga. It's a technique for stimulating the third eye. And at some point, I could actually feel that there was an energy coming through my entire, because I was sitting cross-legged on the dirt, and I could actually feel the energy going all the way through me and coming out like a signal. There was a signal. There was a beam of energy or sound coming through me. And what I did is I used that as a carrier wave, and I imprinted one thought, sort of like throwing a message in a bottle over the ship. I just was thinking love, 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 because whatever that was I had experienced earlier in the day, that was the absolute polar opposite. What those things were doing to that boy and his grandparents was evil.
Right, and were you able to define what was good and what was bad, or did you think at the time that everything was, on the bad side of the fence?
Well, I was very concerned. I mean, I came from a decent family. I lived in a good town, but I'd seen a lot of weird things in my life, especially traveling around the world. But that was not. That was so far off in the twilight zone. Anyway, what happened was, I did define it. Ultimately, it defined me, actually, I should say, because when I left my body, I entered the light. A lot of people talk about this from out-of-body experiences or near-death experiences. They talk about going into the light, not through a tunnel. I didn't go through a tunnel. I popped out of my body so fast, it was bizarre. I mean, yes, I'd been sitting there meditating for hours, sort of generating this charge,
right?
And when I laid down on cement, It was ruins of an old Nike radar installation there for Point Magoo.
Right.
I laid down in the cement. You know that feeling when you're falling asleep? You kind of jerk yourself back because you feel like you're falling.
Yes.
Okay. Well, actually, this time I didn't fight it. As I felt myself falling, what that is your spirit or your soul is literally lifting up, so your body feels like it's falling. It's not. Anyway, I just let it go, and I entered the light, and I knew mission accomplished at that point, because I knew those things could not come with me. They couldn't follow me into that wherever that was. I knew I was safe, in other words.
Right.
Which was great.
Were you seeing them or just feeling them at this point?
At that point, no. See, that was the weirdest part too. Is like much again like that other excerpt. I saw them briefly, and then it faded, and I thought, oh my God, that was weird, and I dismissed it as just a weird like hallucination.
Well, you would have to at that point, because it's you're a virgin.
But it's not like I want to believe that anyway either. I mean, but I felt something. I felt something horrible. It's like if you look at a sink with the plug in it. If you pull the plug in the water and it drains,
mm-hmm.
That's what it felt like in my solar plexus. I couldn't deny that.
Mm-hmm.
And although I thought, well, maybe it's just I'm queasy because all the blood and all this craziness. But the more I thought about it,
Well,
did I blank out again?
Yeah, you did. You blanked out again. You've got some power, man. You've got some power. It's you know what's funny? It was only for 2 seconds, Robert.
Right.
But
Right.
the sound quality is
Yeah.
A+. It's perfect. It's like somebody's hitting a switch.
It could be.
It doesn't
could
sound
be.
like a bad cable. It doesn't sound like your phone. Nope. It's just going on and off.
All right. Well, I apologize.
It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's them, man. I'm telling you.
It could be. I have, I've called them a lot of nasty names over the years, so they're probably not too happy with me. But okay, so here's the thing. When I was in the light, I felt relieved, but I saw then the next thing I saw something moving towards me, and that made me concerned because I was up in the wilderness. I mean, it's like. Yes, I'm in the light, but I was just still, it's like, okay, now what? Now what? Turned out it was a man, or the figure of a man in the light, and he was, he was brighter than the light that we were in. It was literally radiating some sort of light of his own, and even his eyes had light coming out of them. When I saw him, I thought to myself, whoa, who is that? And he said to me, I believe he said, I am the Father. I'm pretty sure that's what he said.
Can you describe to me what he looked like?
Yeah, typical like Jesus. It wasn't Jesus, okay, folks. It was the guy, I'm saying archetypal, what we think of as long hair, beard, white robe, okay? I'm not even sure that's his real appearance, but that's what he appeared like to me. And when he said, I am the Father, I'm like, huh?
Right.
I did, what? And then apparently that was funny to him. Apparently I'd been calling his name or speaking his language, and he picked up on it. And that's why, he approached me at a time of need. And
so benevolent.
Yeah, but the thing is, I wasn't asleep, okay? There's no way. I just laid down.
Mm-hmm.
I just lay down on cement. I wasn't asleep. I know I wasn't asleep. And so for me, in other words, I was completely lucid about this.
Let me ask you one thing.
Yeah.
You've traveled around the world.
Yeah.
And now this event is occurring in Malibu, Zuma,
Yep.
Malibu, that area. And now do you think that this being or this experience is tied to that area? It's indigenous to that area, or have you?
It appears to be. It appears to be because, see, prior to having that experience, I did have, when I was a kid, I moved out there when I was 2, and that was 1961 or 2. Yeah, 2. Anyway, I had dreams, lucid dreams, repeatedly growing up there of either being with the Native Americans or this other people, the other people being the first people. I didn't, at the time, I wouldn't even know that. in fact, as I had those dreams, I couldn't find anything in the history books about them. The best thing I could say was they kind of look Greek in the sense because they were always, when I saw them, they were always wearing white robes, sandals, and they lived in this stone city. Okay, and I knew it was connected to the Channel Islands because they often had boats, and I knew that I oftentimes when I visited with them, I would go to this special place. I called it night school because there was these buildings, and they were just exquisite because they had all these statues there. And that stuck out in my mind, and I always knew if I had to relate to it, or it was somewhere New Point Magoo, because I remember somehow when I traveled out of body that it was, just up the beach and near the military base.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how my young mind equated the whole thing. Anyway, after I had that experience in the light, by the way, after the very next thing I knew, I really thought I just was having a weird.
There went the off switch again.
Hello.
Okay.
Are we back?
Wow. Okay. Continue. You said so after that experience.
Yes. When I came, okay. I said I'm thinking, who's this? He said, I'm the father, and it absolutely shocked me to my core. Like, what do you mean? And a father of what? And then the next thing I know, he's laughing, and I suddenly wake up. I mean, I'm sitting bolt upright, okay? And hours had gone by. I know this because of the position of the moon. I ended up spending the whole night there. All right? And so when I came back to work the next morning, I was curious. I was very worried that boy had died.
Mm-hmm.
I talked to his grandparents. They said he had over 300 stitches in his face, lost a lot of blood, naturally, and but that he was going to live, which that's great. But I had a message for them. Don't ask me where this came from. I still don't quite understand it. I said to him, I know this is going to sound weird, but you can heal the scars on his face. But if you don't heal the scars on his soul, this will happen again. And I turned around and I walked out of there. And I thought for sure I was going to be fired from my job, because that is just, why would you even say something like that, to people you don't even know?
Wow. And did you see them again? And were you able to, because you lived in the area, over the years, what happened to the little boy?
About a year later, I told you that's where I kept my surfboard. I was going over there to grab my surfboard, and I turned around, and suddenly the boy's father was standing there. I don't know how he snuck up on me like that, but he was a big dude, and he grabbed my hand really hard, and he shook it, and he goes, I just want to thank you for what you did for my son. And then he turned around and walked away. I'm like,
wow. And this was 1985?
When that happened, it was the equinox, in September of 1985. Yep.
And was Spielberg living there then?
Actually, he was renting right next door. You're very accurate about that. And
well, I've been to the house many times.
Oh, so you know exactly where it is.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway, what happened was,
this was next door to Spielberg's. Wow.
Yeah, it was literally 2 doors down from there.
And what I want everybody to understand, the reason why I even bring that up is because it's very important to know about what kind of neighborhood we're talking about here. This is it's very nice. It's not the cheapest place in the world. No. And far from it. It's very, very nice. And this isn't a neighborhood where you would think that a 10-year-old boy is going to run crazy and something like that. This is not that neighborhood. And you can't blame it on other things, if you know what I mean. It's not like this is a crack house.
Not at all.
If you know what I mean, this is not.
This
is not that type of neighborhood.
It's fine. Hey, look, but so what happened was, I had 2 people that same day, 2 different women, tell me that they'd seen me that night in their dreams, and they were very specific about what we did. In fact, the first person I told.
Well, this is a family show, so let's.
Okay, no, but listen. This
Okay.
had nothing to do with sexuality. It was,
Okay.
I was
Okay.
sitting there after I left the boys' house.
Right.
I was really shook up. Still, I was so, I didn't know what was going on, and I was trying to process it. And this girl comes up. She was a very close friend of my girlfriend at the time, and she says, "Hey, I saw you in my dream last night." I'm like, "Yeah, so." And you came to my room and you taught me how to fly. I'm like, really?
Wow.
And then she's, yeah, wait a minute though. She goes, she says, yeah, you took me up to the mountains and you taught me to fly. I'm like, what? Yeah, she says, like Peter Pan, you came in, you took my hand, you took me up to the mountains, and you taught me how to fly, and then you took me back home and made sure I was okay back in my room. I'm like, really? You know, really? Okay, you know. And she says, this was so not her. Okay, really. She says to me, I think this has something to do with spirituality. I read something about this in my psych class once, and I'm like, okay. This is getting bizarre.
Right.
Really, I mean, it gets weirder. When I got home that afternoon, late, I was wiped out, and the phone started ringing. It was my grandmother. She says to me, Robbie, I saw you in the foot of my bed last night. It was the weirdest dream. She said, it was just so beautiful. She said, I had to call and tell you. She says, you were saying something to me, but for the life of me, I can't remember what it was because there was all this sparkling light all around you. And she's like, it was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And I'm like, I can't talk to you right now. I think I'm having a nervous breakdown. You know, so what happened, because of all that, I ended up going back to the mountains, hoping to get some answers. And guess what I found? The ruins.
Exactly. And were you, I'm so glad you presented it like that, because did you feel guided? Did you just stumble upon it? I mean,
no,
how did that happen?
I had to have been guided. Almost like a possession or, I mean, it was weird. I felt like something had really gripped my life or taken the helm. And I still have free will. It's just like this really became all-encompassing, consuming my thoughts. So as I was up there, and I mean, I didn't know what was up there. I was looking for this guy who maybe he could give me some answers. He's, you know, what's going on? And then I saw one megalithic monument, and that was it. I was hooked, and I thought, wait a minute, this is what I dreamed about when I was a kid. This is real? I thought it was just my imagination, honestly. When I was a kid, I had no way to document it or verify it. I mean,
serious case of deja vu, you know.
Oh, it was crazy.
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah, so
what did you see? What did you see first? I have to know.
It's okay. It's something I haven't fully. It's hard to take a picture of it. It looks like a Neanderthal. I mean, like a 500-foot tall Neanderthal face in profile.
It's the picture that's on your website.
That one haven't. I don't have a good shot of that. It looks like a Sphinx-like face from on the website there.
Right.
Because that's about a 45-degree difference. So from the highest peak, if you go to the highest peak, Mount Allen, and you look due west out where that mound is, okay, what you're going to see in the middle is this crazy, some people call it an Indian head or whatever. I think it looks far more like a Neanderthal face. It's enormous.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And now, of course, when I saw that, I went running like a wild man. I just ran out there, and I kept going out there, and that became sort of the center, the base of operations for my research and exploration of that site. And eventually I found that balancing rock that you said looked so weird, like an upside down something or other. And
right.
That's a whole other face. But here's the thing, Jimmy, when I would go up there, even with other people, we would see the UFOs. Or they would see us. I mean, I know they saw us because they were flashing their lights on us at times.
Now, how high up? And I want everybody needs to understand where we're talking about here. So you have the ocean. Yeah. I'm going to paint the picture for everybody.
Yeah.
You know, you have the coastline. You have the ocean, which is separated by Pacific Coast Highway, which runs right parallel to the coast, and then and it's very dramatic all the way up the coast, pretty much to San Francisco. To the east, right abutment up all the way up against the freeway is a mountain range, and mountains, and it's very tall. So from the top, and now in some sections of Malibu, that's covered with homes. Some sections of it is parkland, it's forest.
Right.
And that's where you are. And so how high up on the mountain ridge, because some of it can get extraordinarily high. A mile high.
Steep. No, it's not a mile high. It's only the Mount Allen's only like 31.
No, that's what I'm saying. Where you are, how high up specifically are you?
Okay, where we had the contact on top, right on top of the face.
Right.
That is about 2,800 feet.
2,800 feet. So a half a mile.
Yeah, and it overlooks perfectly Point Magoo Naval Base, and if you could see under the water, you'd be looking directly out at the mound.
Right.
Which I didn't know was there until 2010 or something.
Right.
But we'd seen. Oh, I got to back up. A few weeks, maybe a couple months after I had that weird experience on top of the mountain, and I was starting to find the ruins. I had a dream that I was back at my house at Zuma Beach, and that it was a beautiful sunny day, and I felt really it was a.
Lost you again. While I'm waiting for you to come back, Robert, are you there? Okay, while I'm waiting for you to come back, Dale has posted on Twitter. Everybody should go over to Twitter and look at the feed, which is #DMRadioNet. We've got the demon's face posted. We've got the native's face. And also all of the links to your website are posted in Twitter as well.
Seriously.
So, yeah, we've taken care of all of. You should read these tweets just coming in.
Will. I will. Not when I'm talking to you, but I will later.
Yeah. Go and check it out. Just one after another. I want to go see the Malibu monoliths. Here's Robert Stanley's Malibu UFO website. It's just one piled up on another.
Oh boy. So here, I'll try and get it to you real quick. You can hear me, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I never know these things. So I'm standing there on the driveway looking due west out at Zuma Beach in the Pacific Ocean. And then something completely got my attention, and I turned 180 degrees, and I see 3 UFOs, silver UFOs, coming out of the east. A blue sky, okay? Blue sky. In my dream, it was perfectly sunny. It was so lucid. I knew exactly where I was, even though I wasn't living at that house anymore. It was like I was in the dream. I was back. I was a kid, and I'm standing there, and I'm seeing these UFOs pass over the house from the east, going west, and they went right into the ocean off Zuma Beach. And I'm looking at that, and I was like startled by the whole thing. And then the very next thing I know, they're popping back out of the water. Now they've turned golden color, and they come back over the house. And at that point, I'm yelling at the house. I start yelling at the house, Dad, come check this out. There's UFOs. Well, guess who appeared? In a flash of light, here's this guy again.
Jesus.
No, he didn't say that.
I'm saying for everybody else, the guy.
Okay,
Did you have a name for him at this point?
No, he just said he was the father.
Okay, so the father. Okay, there you go. So he pops up again.
No, it was weird. This time was really strange because I knew I was dreaming. But when he showed up, I was calling for my dad, but then he showed up, and the way he showed up, it was like something out of Star Trek. There was a flash of light, and there he was. And instead of being freaked out this time, I walked over. I approached him, and I gave him a hug, and the next thing I know, I woke up. I mean, I really was asleep, okay? At that point, I know I was asleep. But that was one of the weirdest dreams I think I've ever had.
What's the relation? What's the relation between UFOs and him?
That's a whole long story. I don't know if we have time for that.
Okay, well, give me the 30-second version, because I've got another 20 questions. We're running a little short on time.
I'll tell you what, those guys, sons of God, sons of light, are the original builders of this world. You can call it what you want, Lemuria, paradise, I don't care. But this was a biosphere that was designed to support life, symbiotic life, not parasitic life that we have today.
Right.
Okay, so all our true origins were in that vein, and this world really was very different. Everything lived very much longer, and it was huge. I mean, relatively giant, and far more intelligent than we are now. Not because of the brain size, but just because of their connection to the light. Okay.
Well, how many years? Maybe you can't answer this, but how many years are we talking about here when you say, the creation? Are we talking hundreds of thousands of years? Are we talking 10,000 years? What did we? Give me a reference point.
The majority. Let's just put it this way. As far as I can, trying to summarize this really quick. The majority of the timeline for this world was that it was a paradise planet. When the fallen ones came here, and this ties back to what I said before. Those parasites, those energy parasites, are not indigenous to this world. They're not indigenous to this universe, as far as I know. They came from outside this universe. They hitched a ride on some of our ancestors who foolishly went through a portal.
Oh, we got cut again. Okay, foolishly went through a portal.
Yep. And
okay.
Can you?
Yeah.
I'm back.
Uh-huh.
All right. Okay. Sorry about this, folks. I know it's irritating. As far as I know, some of our spacefaring ancestors who were benevolent, and I mean, everybody was benevolent, and all life was symbiotic up until the time that these parasites found a way in. My understanding is that they hitched a ride with some of our ancestors who went through a portal, wormhole, whatever you want to call it, and they became infected. When they were infected, they came back here. They had gone mad. They were possessed by these parasites who caused them to do great evil. I mean, harm like it had never been seen. There was no precedence for it. It caught everybody by surprise. So they did a lot of devastation throughout the universe, not the entire universe, but eventually they showed up here, and they wrecked this entire solar system, and including this planet.
And what year do you think they showed up? How long ago did they show up on planet Earth?
It's debatable, but I'm sure they're the ones that caused the flood. I think they absolutely destroyed the shield that was around the planet. It wasn't just gold dust. It was actually a what do you call transparent metal.
Okay.
If you've ever read the books of Dr. Jonathan Gray.
Absolutely.
He's got one. Check this out.
He's got one book that is called. Okay, now, are you there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Wow, this is okay. Now it's starting to pop like every minute. That's pretty bizarre. Okay, so with Jonathan Gray, let's see if we can keep this going.
Dr. Jonathan Gray. He wrote a book called "Killing a Paradise Planet."
Okay.
He's got some pretty outlandish claims, but it's interesting. I think it dovetails with what I'm trying to say to you, is that this world was completely different. I mean, completely different, especially the sea levels, all the life, being symbiotic rather than parasitic. And when the fallen ones came here, they destroyed pretty much everything, and they enslaved whatever, and they basically took over and enslaved whatever life forms that they could get their hands on.
So when you say Great Flood, we're talking Old Testament, that Great Flood?
The end of, let's put it this way, the Younger Dryas event, the end of that particular event.
Yep. Oh, man, this is driving me nuts. Robert.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. We're getting a train of thought going, and this is happening like every couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me try to get one more thing from you.
Okay.
In case,
okay.
And then we'll have to wind it down anyway.
Yeah.
You were telling me. Let's get back to what's going on with what you have seen out since 2010 off of the coast, and of course we're talking about this underground structure that is out in the public domain now, and it's snowball rolling downhill. Now that you know and you've seen, and now that things have been confirmed for you, do you think about your suspicions about what has been occurring out there? What's the connection? What do you know now? And has things changed for you in the last 24 hours? I mean, are you kind of tripping now? What do you think the connection is?
Yeah, the first motherland of Lemuria was destroyed by the fallen ones when they came here, and that's what we're seeing is these ancient ruins. They promised that they would return and help liberate and rehabilitate this planet and all the people here, and that's what's been going on for a period of time.
And so again, is it a direct connection? Is it? I think you were mentioning earlier today, and I just want to be really clear about this, that you don't think that that's an underground UFO entrance, but yet you are seeing things enter and exit the water there. Yep. So how are you tying all of this together?
Well, they're not based here. They don't have to be. They can travel through wormhole.
Yes, but when you see a USO enter the water, you know, dream or not, or other, where are they going under the water there, and what are they doing?
I really don't know. It's just there's a lot of things that I don't know, and that's probably it's probably a good thing because I have a very big mouth, and I would tell you if I knew.
Right.
And I guess what I'm trying to make clear to you and your audience is that there's a conflict that's been going on for a long time, and we're stuck in the middle of it. That's why all the secrecy. That's why all the manipulation. As I told you earlier, look, Michael basically said the same thing. The bad guys came in here and have been dicking around for a long time,
right?
And they're up to no good. The good guys don't have, and they're keep blocking out the good guys from actually sitting down and having a conversation with us and bringing us up to speed on what's going on.
Right. And are you in communication now?
Yeah. Look. You got to look at my investigation in Washington D.C. and you'll see the pictures of the UFOs over my home where I'm living in Rhode Island. And also, when they came and visited me when I was in Manhattan Beach, certain people they keep an eye on very closely. I'm not sure why. I can't. Like I said, I don't have all the answers here. It's one of the reasons I do my investigations. I'm really trying to figure this out for myself, but I feel like I'm obligated to share what I do find with people. Because we're all in this together, It's not just about me; it's about us.
Well, you were telling me earlier today about the first time where you had closed off your mind and said, thought that you were speaking, and you were on your motorcycle. And
yes.
What road were you? Were you on Las Virgenes or Lost Hills or what?
No. I was coming down Encinal Canyon.
Oh, Encinal Canyon. Okay.
Yes,
okay.
I was
you.
coming down. Yes, I was. Because I was coming. I'd been up in the mountains late that night, and I was coming down the mountain, and I was actually, heading down towards Zuma.
Oh, Encinal Canyon is a road that goes up into the mountains right off of PCH. And again, very, very beautiful, very remote too, as well.
Yep.
If you would have, anything happens to you up there, nobody's ever going to find out.
Well, especially late at night.
Right.
But the thing was, I was getting closer to civilization again. I was coming down out of the wilderness, but I just had that crazy feeling like something was watching me. And then I thought, well, if they're really up there, I'm going to try an experiment. I'm just going to send a mental thought to them and see how they respond. If they're there, it was just a test. I had no expectations. So anyway, I said to them mentally, or I looked at this one area where I felt the energy coming from, and I said to them, hey, why don't you just show yourselves, because I'm not going to hurt you. I can't do anything to harm you. And at that moment, just as soon as I had that thought, they turned the light on in their craft as it was following me, and I completely took my eyes off the road. I was riding a motorcycle. I should have, but I couldn't help it. I was so shocked. I was stunned that my hunch was correct. First of all, and second of all, the fact that they heard me, that really just fried my chips. I couldn't. I mean, I believe it because I saw it. But anyway, after a few seconds, they turned the light off because I wasn't looking at the road anymore. It's a good thing I didn't wreck my bike. But after they turned off the light, I pulled over to the side of the road because I was just shaking like a leaf. I wasn't scared. I was just my paradigm was crumbling, absolutely crumbling. Whatever I thought was, whatever I'd been taught was, that just all went out the window. And I had to deal with it. I had to, find a way to make sense of this, right? And most people don't have a good answer for this or an explanation that's credible in my book. So that's why I started doing investigations on my own and meeting other people like yourself. And I think we're starting to figure this thing out, though. I really do.
Were you able to capture in your own mind's eye like a physical idea of what the craft looked like, or was it just too quick?
It was very quick, and it was probably a half a mile from me, but it was obvious that it was pacing me. Like I said, I could just feel it. It was really, I wouldn't say it was intrusive, but it was undeniable that something was, because I've been in the mountains before when there's animals in the bushes, and I've come across their path. They thank God they never harm me, but
they're there.
You get to know that feeling, like,
right.
Yeah, when you're very close to some other life form. It definitely gets your attention.
An email, the producers just sent this in here to me. It says, is Robert saying that there is a connection between archons and USOs?
That's what the Gnostics called the overlords of this planet.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying is, here's a good analogy. Like when a dog is healthy, you can have a loving relationship with it, and it's obedient till its dying day, right? Loyal and obedient, loving. But if it becomes infected by rabies, it turns against you. It doesn't listen to anything you say, and you've lost that relationship. That's what's happened to some of our ancestors, okay? Whether they're reptilian, human, insectoid, or whatever. And that's the bottom line of this whole conversation is the reason we're all suffering is because, that's how I define evil. It's an infection, okay? Psychosis, these psychopathic people that rise to positions of power are infected.
Were you able to, as these revelations?
That's a good word.
Yeah, I just invented something with the community there of witnesses and neighbors and because it was practically like a light show going on out there for many years, and still is.
Yeah.
You pull up your lawn chairs and just go see what's going on. So did you talk about this with your neighbors and your friends and anybody else share these experiences with you?
Eventually they had to, because one time I was on the beach as a security guard, and I had been telling people about it, and 3 of them popped up over the hill behind Zuma Beach, right there at Point Doom, just the first hill behind there. And there was a commercial jet coming in to go land at LAX, and there was the 3 UFOs. I'm sure that jet called it in, said there's bogeys, right here in our flight path. Somebody then called Point Magoo. They scrambled 2 F-14s. The F-14s tried to intercept, and these things, not only did they outmaneuver them, they literally went into a cloud and didn't come out.
Huh.
So that's broad daylight, okay, at the beach. But I've also, when I took people up into the mountains, when we'd have close encounters, it was unmistakable. It was obviously not a helicopter or anything conventional by any stretch of the imagination.
Mm-hmm.
They were making themselves known to us.
Well, Steve Morello, he called today, and he wants to go out and do a night watch out where your ruins are, and he wants to go up there next Saturday. So we're going to go up there.
Okay.
Next Saturday and check this out. He's got all that night vision, crazy telescopes and video cameras and stuff. So we're going to go out there with a couple of his crew. We were going to do it. He wanted to go tomorrow night, but it's my brother's birthday tomorrow. My brother-in-law's birthday tomorrow.
Hey, Jimmy, real quick.
Yes.
Be careful. Just be careful, okay? Because some of the trails there are pretty steep along there as you enter the area. But I know you'll be fine. I have to say that, okay, as a matter of recourse, because I will feel responsible if anything happens to you. But here's the other thing. If you want to see pictures of the parasites, go to my website at unicusmagazine.com and click on articles and go down to Meet Our Covert Controllers, the Archons.
Okay.
That's what you'll see. They look like amoeba, but they're very large, much larger than an amoeba. And you see for yourself, okay? And by the way, there's quotations there from Credo Mutwa about these things. He knows. All the shamans have known this for ages.
You know what's funny is Unica Magazine, a couple, maybe 6 months ago, we had Preston on the show, and he brought in the cover of that swarm of lights that went from Catalina Island up to Malibu, that cover.
Right. Yeah.
And I saw that then, and we talked about you. This was 6 months ago. And so he comes in last night, and he wants to, because of this, discovery going off of the coast right now, he wanted to talk about that again. So he gave me that cover, and we put it in a gallery last night. And I'm telling you, synchronicity, man, it's a bitch, and you can't ignore it. And I really want to thank you for that. Unica was a great magazine. And okay, so I wanted to ask you one other question really quick.
Go ahead.
And I can't remember what it was.
Well,
okay.
Stop thinking about it, and it'll come to you.
Okay. Well, you know what? It doesn't matter. We got to roll out of here. But thank you. Thank you
My
for
pleasure,
this.
Jimmy.
And anything that comes to mind, or with what's going on, pop it in an email, and we're going to start compiling this information. And like I said, talk to Tellinger today. Now Tellinger knows. Dolan knows by now. And and so we've got Bill Burns on the case. Brad Olson. It's just the list is going on and on and on.
That's awesome.
And we're just going to get everybody knowing about this, talking about it, and try to get some answers. I think the next step. I've had a few offers come in already, but I think the next step and the obvious one is we've got to get out there with a boat, and we've got to get out there with a television crew or video crew. Doesn't have to be television, just somebody to document everything, and get some kind of remote camera over the side and down there. And that's it. That's the only way. It's too deep for a submarine. It's too deep to scuba dive. It's too deep to swim. You can't see it from the surface. I don't know how crystal clear the water is out there. But
Probably not.
Exactly. It's so deep, you lose light anyway, So I think that's the only answer that we have, and certainly the cheapest one too, because it's not going to be, that's a major expedition to go out there. I do have, maybe some one of my director buddies. I don't know, but we've got to be able to go out there and get this done as soon as possible. And I think the next thing that's going to happen, Robert, and just mark my words on this one, we're going to go into Google Earth to go look at it and show it to somebody, and it's going to be gone.
Yes.
And I'm just glad that it's going to be clouded out. It's going to be moved, but we have captured every angle. We have so many images that you haven't seen yet. We're kind of holding back, but we've got to save it. Document it now. Get it all archived. Get it all done, and then we've got to get out there. And the summer is here, and there's not a better time to do it.
Yeah, well, have a good let me know what happens when you're up in the mountains, because you'll see something, or something will see you. That'll be interesting.
No, guaranteed to happen. And and I tell Steve this all the time. Every time we do something like this, the best thing, we've got to get abducted on video. We've got to get we have to be on the phone with somebody, and let's have something happen in real time. And I don't say that in a joking way. I mean, that is that I would going out there and hanging out with everybody, and not having something happen. No, let's have something extraordinary happen.
Wait, Jimmy, I would prefer not to be. I don't want to see you get abducted. I'd like you to have contact. Just know that they do hear us. The picture that you'll see that I took of them over the house, that was directly because I'd gone out after a show like this. I went out the driveway and I looked up in the stars and I yelled at them, "Are you nuts? You really expect me to take on Washington, D.C. by myself?
Right.
This isn't going to work. Why aren't you doing something?" Anyway, the very next morning, 12 hours later, the craft shows up. It parked over the backyard long enough for me to take 4 pictures, and then it vanished. I'm telling you that we have the ability. It's incumbent upon us to initiate a conversation with them, on a peaceful terms. If we want to have that, it's available to us, even though it will be difficult. That's the real next step, in my opinion.
Well, both Steve and Preston, well, they're not the only ones, but specifically about Marina Del Rey and Malibu, they both say the exact same thing, that they've been able to just have a positive thought, maybe whip out a flashlight, a laser pointer, just let them know where you're standing and where you're at, and send the vibes out, and just stand back and wait, because they will let you know. So I haven't done it yet. I haven't. We have, not only do we have this going on in Malibu, but we also have, the Pine Mountain Club up in Santa Clarita, which is another Indian settlement that's been up there, and they've been doing this for eons. And if you go up there and talk to them about lights, they're going to be like, whatever, it happens every night. But I haven't been able to go do that, or the Brown Mountain Lights either in Tennessee, which is another example of this. So,
but it doesn't have to be that remote. I'm telling you, I've seen them in the city, in Santa Monica, when I was living there. I had.
Yeah, so is Preston, and you and Preston. Preston's told you about it. His first experience was in downtown Santa Monica, not anywhere near the sand. It was right there. So.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, look, the truth really is stranger than fiction. It's just that it's so much stranger. It's almost difficult to talk about it publicly, because people think you're just making stuff up.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But until, I've had my little experiences, and until you have one yourself, right? But once you do, and you listen to somebody else share it, well, then it's different. You get it, and you have an open mind, and it doesn't matter. It's just like, okay, what else happened? Because you're sharing that experience. Well,
you also have a context. Okay, this is totally out of context for most people who've never had it or even looked into it. It's like completely out of left field. But I understand you got to go, Jimmy. Thanks for having me on the show. I'll keep in touch.
Yeah, I've actually got to roll music in about 30 seconds.
Okay, cool.
Hey, thank you, Robert. And again, keep the email coming on the discovery off the West Coast, and we're compiling information, my brother. Thank you for sharing.
Good. My pleasure. Take care.
Have a good night.
You too.
That was Robert Stanley. All right. Let's wrap this up. What a great week here on Fade to Black. And as you can tell, I'm a little brain dead right now. What a wild night. It's just been a crazy week, roller coaster. So I'm going to make a formal request in my last 35 seconds here on the air. If you have any experiences out in Malibu, Point Doom, Magoo, Wineme, and that whole area, Zuma, you have photographs, you have friends, share it with us. I went through a list of Preston Dennett's witness testimony last night and this morning, and the list is just hundreds long. I want to add to that. Okay? So with that, get it to us. Any photographs, any videos, anything that you can share, we are putting it together. This is probably the most extraordinary discovery since Area 51 in Roswell, and it's happening right now in real time. You will remember this show. You will remember this week, and that's why you come here. Special thanks to Michael Tellinger. Please, thank you, Mike. Talk to you tomorrow. Robert Stanley for coming in the show. Next week, Joshua P. Warren, Blake Cousins. Stay tuned. Coming up next is Big Picture Science, followed by After Dark with Brian Alvarez. Another great live show. Special thanks to Keith Rowland and Art Bell. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Kamarian. Show is produced by Hilton J. Palm and Mark D. Kovar. The announcers are Steve Harder and Mark D. Kovar. Music is this guy right here. That's right, Doug Aldrich. Show intro performed by Space Boy. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Dark Matter Radio Network. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Everybody have a great, safe party weekend. I'll talk to you next week. See ya.